Good morning, everybody. I welcome you all to the virtual Global BioIndia 2021 Roadshow. So now I would request Mr. Muthu Singaram, CEO, IITM HTIC MedTech Incubator, to give away the opening remarks. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone, and especially my friend coming all the way from Canada, Fredericton. Good evening to you. I think it's 1 o'clock there. Thank you for being here. Dr. Shruti from BioIndia, of course, as usual, our faculty in charge, Dr. Mohan. Thank you for the three of you to be here. And we've already gone long time back live on YouTube, so others will be asking questions from YouTube, and hopefully we'll have a great morning. And thank you all of you to be here this morning, and also the HTIC team for putting this together with so many things running right now. So over to you back, Regina, to carry on with the program.
Thank you, sir. I would now request Dr. Mohana Shankar Prakasham, faculty in charge of HTIC, to address the gathering. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Archana. I hope you can all hear me. I can't see because you're on the other end of the. So first of all, it's a pleasure, and I'm so glad that Global BioIndia is continuing to do this despite the pandemic situation currently going on. But in one way, it's also an advantage because you will get to see this and learn so much without having to actually travel. So that's a great advantage for the current situation also. So I want to particularly welcome Dominic. He's really taken the time and effort to let us know about what's going on in Canada. So probably the key messages that I would have for pretty much experienced as well as young people who are looking into this is to quickly understand the landscape of what is the possibilities. I think that's a very important aspect of entrepreneurship, to quickly understand what's going on, where are the gaps, what are the possibilities, and develop some depth and mastery on this aspect itself. So that's very important. The second aspect of it is also there is a change in healthcare in India, particularly. So many of you might have seen the government budget. That is when the health expenditure from the public coffers is going to go up significantly. So there are a lot of opportunities. I don't have to tell you that, but translating that opportunity into a business is something that you have to pay very careful attention. And that will come only by really understanding the value chain. So you really have to map whatever your idea is with respect to where it adds value and who will pay for it. Fundamentally, these are the two things that you have to look for. Who derives the maximum value. And it turns out in healthcare, most of the time, that's not the person who pays. So these two aspects plus a combination of the larger landscape is what I hope you will take away from this roadshow program today. And the panel has some very, very senior people. These are people who have spent like 20, 30 years in healthcare. They can tell you so much. It'll really be a distilled version of what you probably will take many months, if not years, to learn. So once again, I want to welcome all of you. Please have a good time, enjoy this. And when you want to connect back to us, you always have Muthu's team who can help you in whatever way they can. So once again, welcome and thank you very much. That's now over to you.
Thank you so much, sir. Now I call upon Dr. Shruti Shukla, research scientist at BioIndia, to take us on briefing on Global BioIndia and BioIndia. Over to you, Dr. Shruti.
Thank you, Archana. Can you please play on the slides? So first of all, a very good morning to all the participants, and on behalf of BioIndia, I would like to thank HTIC team for organizing this roadshow today. And I'm here to give a brief about the Global BioIndia 2021, which is being organized by DBT and its public sector undertaking by RAC from 1st to 3rd March on a digital platform in partnership with CII, Able Technologies, and Invest India. Arshna, can you have the slide, please?
Yes, ma'am. Just a second. I'll just share.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Next one. Next slide, please. So before going into the details of the event, I would, previous slide, please. I would just like to give a brief about BIRAC and why are we organizing this event. Though all of you must already be aware of the organization and its objectives, it is just a quick snapshot for those who are connecting with us for the first time and would find this information useful. So BIRAC, that is Biotechnology Industry Research Assistance Council, is a Government of India enterprise, a Section 8 non-for-profit company under the aegis of Department of Biotechnology, Ministry of Science and Technology. So it was established to support startups, entrepreneurs, and SMEs to develop innovative and affordable biotech products and technologies to address the unmet needs. And since its formulation in 2012, it is serving as a central agency to empower, enable, and accelerate the biotech innovation ecosystem in India through entrepreneurship, providing fundings in the form of grants and investments, setting up incubation space, providing mentoring in technical, business, IP, and regulatory issues, and showcasing the strength of our startups and entrepreneurs at national and global level. So the sectors that we work on are healthcare and wellness, waste management, agriculture, sanitation, industrial biotech, and clean energy, but certainly we are not restricted to them. We are open to any innovative idea in biotechnology related to any sector. Next slide, please. So this is a bird's eye view of the schemes and the funding pattern of BIRAC. And as you can see, we provide a funding support of INR 15 lakhs to up to 1 million US dollars, with Sitare and EUA being the stepping stone in the ladder. So Sitare is our student innovation scheme wherein we provide a support of up to 15 lakhs for innovative student projects. And not only the financial support we provide mentoring and hands-on training through residential workshops. Next is our EUA, which is a fellowship grant to support pre-incubation and entrepreneurial culture among the students right from undergraduate till postdoctoral level. And next is our big, which is Biotechnology Ignition Grant. It is a flagship program of BIRAC in which provide support up to 50 lakhs for establishing and validating a proof of concept. And once the POC is established, we have our public-private partnership schemes, SIBRI and BIPP. In SIBRI, we provide a funding support of up to 50 lakhs to startups and entrepreneurs. And in BIPP, there is no such capping on the upper limit of the project. It is basically for high risk projects which are having no assured markets, and both government and industry contribute equally towards the total project cost. Next to that, we have seed and lead for late stage validations. In seed, we provide a funding support of up to 30 lakhs, and it is basically to provide sustainability to the startups and entrepreneurs to reach up to a level wherein they can raise funds and seek for loans. LEAP, we provide funding support of up to 1 crores and is for piloting and commercializing the project. Next is our product commercialization program, in which a funding support of up to 5 crores is provided to test, validate the products and technologies in the targeted markets and larger scale commercialization. And at last, we have ACE, in which funding support of up to 700 lakhs is provided, which is a funds of funds scheme and is being implemented by our funding partners. Apart from these schemes, we also have our mission programs, which are contributing to this innovation landscape in their own way. Next slide. Till date, we have provided total funding of rupees 2,063 crores with a follow-on funding of 350 crores plus. More than 200 academic institutes, 600 companies, 1,000 plus beneficiaries, 1,500 plus startups, entrepreneurs, and SMEs have been supported, and more than 10,000 people have enhanced their skills through us. More than 200 IPs have been filed till date, and more than 150 products and technologies are there in market today. So we have established 53 bio-incubators span India, and there are 4 regional centers among them, which are at Bengaluru, Hyderabad, Pune, and Bhubaneswar. So the bio-incubators provide a landing escape to test ideas and have access to high-end instruments to cut the market risk, and connects industry and academia and enable interactions for efficient exchange of knowledge, as well as facilitating technical and business mentorship. Next slide. So this is the impact that we have created through our existence in these 9 years. And as I said, there are more than 150 products and technologies in the market today. It's a glimpse of a few to show the spectrum that we have covered so far, right from diagnostics to therapeutics and medtech devices, solar conduction dryers, clean energy, agriculture, and so on. Next slide. So this is why a mega event was organized in 2019, and I'm sure most of you must have personally witnessed this event, wherein we had B2B, B2G, G2G meetings, workshops and boot camps, roundtables, startup and government pavilions, state connects, and policy dialogues, and of course bio partnering. So the event was a huge success in its first attempt itself, wherein more than 2,500 delegates participated from over 20 countries. There was a representation from over 10 states, 50 plus research institutes, 75 plus incubators, and 50 plus investors, 200 plus exhibitors, 250 plus startups, and 625 plus companies. More than 800 bio-partnering meetings were scheduled during this event. Next slide. So this Global Bio India 2021 is the second edition of this event, and what's the mandate this time? So as you all know, that biotechnology sector is recognized as one of the key drivers for contributing to India's economy target of $5 trillion by 2024, and is poised to grow exponentially over the next decade. So DBT BioRec aims to play a transformative and catalytic role in contributing to this economy target, and develop India as a world-class biotechnology innovation and biomanufacturing hub. This event would showcase opportunities in Indian biotechnology sector to the world, and would help in connecting Indian biotechnology ecosystem with the international ecosystem. Next slide. So this event was supposed to be an annual feature, and was supposed to be organized last year itself, but due to COVID pandemic, as we all know, it could not be held, and we are hosting this virtually this time from 1st March to 3rd March. But being a virtual event, we are not at all demotivated. We anticipate even larger participation this time, with more than 5,000 delegates participating from over 50 countries, 200 plus exhibitors, 1,000+ startups, and there will be B2B, B2G, G2G meetings, media interactions, policy dialogues, CEO roundtables, global regulators meet, investors roundtable, state connects, workshops, boot camps, government and startup pavilions, and of course biopartnering. And the process of biopartnering I'll be explaining in my coming slides. Next slide. So the event is clear call out for destination India, as we hold all the potential for biotechnological innovations and manufacturing. We are the top supplier of GPT, BCG and measles vaccine globally. We have second highest number of US FDA approved manufacturing plants outside US. We are the third largest biotech destination in Asia Pacific region. We are second producer of BT cotton globally. We are the third producer of recombinant hepatitis B vaccine and share 3% global biotechnology uh, industry. So this percentage is expected to go up to 19% by 2025. Currently, we are having more than 3,500 startups and 100 plus biotechnology incubators within India. And that is why what was looking at us during the pandemic to have at least their manufacturing sites, and we have successfully showed that we are not only self-reliant but are in position to serve others also in need. Next slide. So this is the projected growth of Indian bioeconomy sector by 2024 in billion dollars, and BIRAC's close alignment with national missions like Ayushman Bharat, Make in India, Startup India, Swachh Bharat, etc., is also contributing to develop indigenous products, which will also be showcased during the event. Next slide. So why exhibit? There exists a strong reason for exhibiting in this event, as you get personal networking opportunity to get hold of the investors, make your global presence, and get the opportunity of branding among international players. You can enhance your product portfolio by by having access to innovations. You can explore marketing partnerships and funding opportunities there. Next slide. So biopartnering is also being organized this time on a virtual platform, though the event would be from 1st March to 3rd March, but the biopartnering rooms will be open from 1st March to 5th March, 24 hours per day. And the partnering system that we are using this time for biopartnering is Innova one-on-one partnering system for having a smooth partnering experience. And for this, you will have to register at our portal under biopartnering category. And once you are registered, you will receive partnering account, wherein you can create your organization profile, mark your availability. You can search for organization you meet with, you can send and accept meeting request, and you can schedule your meetings. Next slide. Who should attend this event? So basically anyone and everyone who is related to biotechnology sector in any manner should attend this event, including large industries, SMEs, startups, entrepreneurs, innovators, enterprises looking for business partners and distributors in India and other global markets, investors seeking opportunity to invest in biotechnology sector, international and domestic public officials, regulatory agencies, patenting offices, clinicians, bioengineers, translational research institutions, technology transfer offices, experts and mentors, international biotechnology industry associations. Next slide. So This event at BIRAC is being steered by Make in India Cell, and in case you have any queries related to the event, you can connect to them directly over the landline mentioned here on this slide. You can also visit to our website www.globalbioindia.com for having more details about the event, right from the charges of exhibition and biopartnering. And in case of any other query, you can mail us at info@globalbioindia.com. You can follow our Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter handles for regular updates about the event. And at last, I would like to request all the participants here to register for this event, as delegate registration is free of cost. Please disseminate as much as possible about the event and seek maximum participation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Shruti. Thank you so much for your presentation and for your inputs. Now I pass it on to Mr. Muthu Singaram, CEO, IITM HTIC MedTech Incubator, for the next session. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Archana. Dominic, can you hear me? Great. Dominic is a great friend of ours from a little town in Canada called Fredericton in Atlantic Canada, in UNB. He is the innovation driver for UNB and also special advisor to the president of UNB. So welcome to you, Dominic, and thank you so much for being here. It must be close to 1 o'clock back in Fredericton. But the idea of having you here is, since this is a global show, it will be good to show some global connection, which we already have, and you already know many of the things we do. So you would be the right person to talk about the opportunities and challenges in Canada. So maybe you actually have a presentation you'd like to go through. So maybe you can do that. And we actually are ahead of time, so we don't have to rush it in 15 minutes. We can even do 20, 25 minutes. That's not an issue. So please go for it.
Well, thank you so much, Muthu, for the invitation to join here. Can you guys hear me okay? I have headphones in just simply because my dog is barking because I'm up late at night. And yes, it is almost 1 a.m. and it's snowing outside. So welcome to winter in Fredericton. It's indeed an honor, my friend, and it's so great to see Pratisha. Hi, good to see you guys again. And Sumitra, it's so nice to see you guys again. Missed being in India this year, and I'm sorry we weren't able to make it, but post-COVID, I'm quite excited that we will be able to come back and visit Chennai again. I do truly miss it. So thank you. I am just going to share my screen. I'm hoping this will work. And then we're going to go to here. Can everybody see that?
Yep.
Interesting. Okay, so is it typing words down at the bottom?
You're putting text for us. We understand English, don't worry.
I don't know why it's doing this. I'm not going to complain too much. It seems to be typing everything I'm saying, so this could be very interesting. As Muthu said, I am the Innovation Entrepreneurship Strategist at the University of New Brunswick. And I'm sorry for the subtitles. This is going to get annoying after 15 minutes. At the University of New Brunswick in Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada. I will show you as we go along. So I'm going to take you from a macro level down to a local level on startups across the country with a few statistics, but where opportunities sit for healthcare, for biotechnology across the country. So Canada, big country, over 6,000 kilometers from coast to coast. And we are on the right-hand side of that map, small little green star in a town called Fredericton, east of Quebec, east of Ontario, almost in the Atlantic Ocean. Population of Canada is approximately 38 million. So I know those numbers are tiny. Mutu always makes fun of me when we talk about the populations in Canada in comparison to India. So in reference to Canadian startups, a lot of startup activity is located in the western section of Canada. There has been a great deal of entrepreneurial growth. Now, these are old stats, but they still stay true to today. The interesting premise is the first part here is that at this time, 1 in 5 of self-employed Canadian workers, which startups fit into that, are immigrants. Now, based upon last year's statistics that were brought together by hockeystick.co, 33% of all startups in Canada have actually been started by immigrants. And that number is going to grow as we move forward. Usually most startups are relatively well educated. Undergraduate or master's degree make up about 47% of all startups. And there's also starting to get to be a larger growth in female-led startups. When these statistics came out, it was approximately 12%, but now we're up over 20% for female-led startups and looking for that to hopefully continue to grow. This is a busy slide. There's a lot of data on this, and I'm happy to share these with Mr. Mutu, and he can share them for those people who would like to get them. This is just talking about people willing to travel and be part of it. Most people who come here have knowledge of either English or French, which are our two official languages. Interestingly enough, New Brunswick, the province that I live in, teeny tiny province on the East Coast, is the only bilingual province in the country. Quebec is unilingual French, and we are both French and English here. The immigration numbers, Canada's population, especially in the East Coast, it was on a decline. And so there's a larger push for immigrant population to increase. And so, and I'll talk in a little bit about a couple of projects put in place by government, but there's a larger push to try to drive for immigrant population to come here, not only for schooling, but for training and hopefully stay here and set up companies. Interestingly enough, originally those numbers of immigrant populations that came to Canada used to go to Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver, and Calgary. More so now, those numbers are going outside of those larger geographic areas. And again, larger by Canadian comparison, not by Indian comparison. But on the left-hand side, the stat is that in 2017, 39% settled outside of those 3 main corridors. So again, a large piece on Government of Canada. Atlantic Canadian employers, nearly 1,800 job offers using Atlantic Immigration Pilot, which is a 600% increase. Enrollment in the Accelerated Growth Service nearly doubled. In high growth companies, there is a bigger push now in clean tech and green tech, as well as biotechnology, especially in ag tech and food safety. There's been a huge push on as a response to COVID. Canada as a whole has realized 2 major failings within the system. One was last summer in terms of food safety and ability for food to be able to get to areas. We had shortages in grocery stores from day 1 of COVID starting. It was ridiculous. And secondly is that we actually have no capability to be able to make our own vaccines. And we are beholden to international markets. So while we are hoping to come out the back end of coronavirus, and Canada on a whole has done fairly well, this region has probably done better than just about anywhere else in the world, just because we locked everything down. But that was a massive place. So there's more investment coming from the Government of Canada, more investment from regional for biosafety and pharmaceutical safety and self-reliance in Canada. So one of the things I did mention on the federal government side is the startup visa program, and where this is talking, as I said, I'm going to go from federal down to more provincial and then regional, provincial, and then local. The startup visa allows immigrant entrepreneurs an opportunity to be able to access quicker routes to immigration if they do so decide to come to Canada. It was 2018. It was made a permanent program. It was put in place as a pilot in 2017, and people were made well aware of the fact that if we were to start challenging our neighbors to the south, which is the United States, that we needed to rely more heavily on the immigrant population to start giving us opportunities in developing their ideas into full-fledged businesses in Canada. And so this was started. As of May 2019, more than 650 entrepreneurs and their families were approved. There are about 200 startups that launched in Canada. I know that's a small number, but it was pretty significant as only just for this program. There were other immigrants that came and did their startups that had nothing to do with this. We have now started to use this through our own accelerators, and we're successful in having a student come from Bangalore, pardon me, from one of our accelerators to join us in Fredericton. So let's take a look at Atlantic Canada. This is Atlantic Canada, East Coast, 2.23 million people in 4 provinces: New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Newfoundland and Labrador, and Prince Edward Island. Prince Edward Island being the smallest of them. We are the farthest east, and we are located on the main border with the United States. From my house, the main border is an hour's drive. And Boston is approximately 6.5 hours south of me by car. So Startup Atlantic Canada, we have this program across the country, which is made up of a lot of startup communities coming together. They do have about 4,000 people engaged in Atlantic Canada, along with partnerships to be able to develop stronger, deeper relationships to be able to help groups create startups. And one of the founding ones in this was the startup Fredericton. In terms of the sectors that are more important in Atlantic Canada, obviously, well, not obviously, but in this area, information technology is the critical one. There are a lot of universities for the population in Atlantic Canada, and a lot of them have computer science and engineering as backbones, similar to the IITs. And so, but you'll also see on here life sciences, which is growing and is going to continue to grow, as is clean tech, especially with the investments that are being made by the United States through President Biden and the work that he's doing. In terms of the provinces, this is statistics that comes out of Entrevestor. You can see that Nova Scotia this year had the most with 139. New Brunswick didn't do too poorly, and in fact actually had the highest investments that year. Newfoundland third, and then Prince Edward Island with 19. Most of those in New Brunswick were located here in Fredericton. Fredericton is the government, it's the provincial capital, so it's the government center, as well as there's 2 universities here, plus 3 online universities that exist, and 2 community colleges. So for a smaller population, there's a lot of higher education here, and therefore a lot of students who are taking STEM disciplines that are studying and looking to take their IP and see if it's commercializable. Another innovative program that is very similar to the immigration program that I mentioned. This one, though, is specifically to Atlantic immigration pilot. It was originally only supposed to go from 2017 to 2020, but it was extended to 2021. And if you see the total numbers of people that had applied through the previous, most of them were actually in Atlantic Canada, that this is actually having the largest impact. This is not based upon startups, but coupled with the startup program, it makes immigration and movement into Atlantic Canada a lot easier. And this is just an immigration project that's specifically here to take a look at. So New Brunswick, Fredericton, UMB, again, New Brunswick, population, and don't laugh at this, is 778,000 people for the whole province. When I was in Hubli last, they said that's really tiny. And so it is. I live in the capital of said province with a population of approximately 80,000 people, and I can see Mutu smiling now. So this is Fredericton, and the picture in the middle is our university located on the hill, the University of New Brunswick. Now, just an overview. In terms of research at the university, over $53 million Canadian in research in 2014. We're up to about 57 million now. And our new president, who has actually been to visit HTIC, Dr. Paul Mazerel, has made a plan that in 5 years' time, we will increase to 100 million. 75% of all of our province's university research is done in the city of Fredericton. The city of Fredericton has been named Canada's most entrepreneurial city. The University of New Brunswick has been named Canada's most entrepreneurial university. And so we thrive on this premise of pushing innovation and entrepreneurship. We do have all of those PhDs would have come from our university, the University of New Brunswick. There are 60 research organizations and over $1 billion in technology exits since 2005. It was actually from 2 exits, and between the 2 of them, they were over $1 billion, and that's actually $1 billion US total in that. So this is the J. Herbert Smith Center, which is where Mutu asked me to get to eventually, which is where I work. The J. Herbert Smith Center is located at the University of New Brunswick. Herb Smith founded it. He was Canada's first president of GE, and he, General Electric, and he was a graduate of the University of New Brunswick and came back and said that STEM students didn't know enough about entrepreneurship and wanted to teach them the basics of business. Rocky road the first couple of decades within the program and not much growth that took place in it since then. In 2014, actually in about 2010, we got a new chair, a friend of HTIC, Dr. Dhirendra Shukla, a good friend of Mr. Mutu's, and Dhirendra has driven the growth of TME, and in the last 2 decades, we've had over 145 startups come out of our center. We show that the impact that those have raised more than $55 million, and the center has also helped with over $6 million in research. We are doing new programs such as iSTEM and have added another accelerator. So this is the map of what we do in the J. Herbert Smith Center. I know it's kind of all over the place, but it does show a few things in terms of innovation. All the innovation that we do is based upon STEM disciplines. We work with the biomedical engineering department at the University of New Brunswick and help develop biotech startups and ideas, whether it is going through iSTEM, which is right here, which is based off the National Research Council's, the National Science Foundation of the United States ICOR program, We are the only university in Canada. It's the same as your Incubate program that you have at IIT Madras. And in fact, actually, KVN has come over and helped instruct in that program. But this is tests for commercial viability of early stage startups. We have funding that goes out to students who are looking to develop very early idea, up to about 6 lakhs in TCP investments, about 10,000 Canadian dollars. Investments go beyond that, because if the project or the startup starts getting legs and starts showing commercial viability and starts getting early stage investment as well as possible first stage customers, then you can see up here we have the Summer Institute and Energia, which are our accelerators. The Summer Institute is for non-STEM based startups, whereas Energia is clean tech, green tech, and cybersecurity. One of those two startups that I mentioned was a cybersecurity company that was bought by IBM, and most of their cybersecurity basis is now in the city of Fredericton, town of Fredericton. And so there is a larger cybersecurity piece that's coming out of that. Pardon me. And finally, at the back end, that once companies are going and they get up to about $1 million a year in turnover, 1 to 2.5 million, then they can grow our Scale Up Atlantic Canada. So going back, and I think that's the end of my slides, it is. So going back to statements that were made about biotech across the country, Saskatchewan, British Columbia, Montreal, and Toronto are biotech regions of great attraction, but Atlantic Canada is building on the idea of oceans, artificial intelligence, and cybersecurity, and we work in all of these. It's a small enough area that you know everybody within the community and you all work together, but that just gives an overview of what it is. There's a lot of support, a very large community of startups, a large community of startups that work together. So if you are interested in looking at anything, I know you can get my contact through Mutu. Happy to talk to anybody who's interested in potentially looking at partners or looking at new markets, or potentially research. Again, we're also a full university with over 10,000 students on 2 campuses. We are a comprehensive university, the number 5 university of comprehensive universities in the country. And so we'd love to welcome you to our shores, as we have to Mr. Mutu on many occasions. Thank you so much for the time, and I apologize for the late night rambling.
Hey,
but
no
I did it in under 15 minutes.
No, it was good. It was really good. So at least it gives a perspective to the people listening out there that they can actually go up to North America. We have Fredericton, which is only 6 hours away from Boston, where Boston, as we all know, is one of the leading centers for medical devices and biotechnology. So it is actually, and the benefit of that is being based in Fredericton is cheaper. People are much nicer, and then you can go across. Now, Marianne is not coming live. She's given me a recording. She's going to kill me for saying that, because she is from Boston, but we'll not worry about that until she kills me. So what would be the first thing the startups out there will need to do to sort of looking at sort of coming over to, obviously we're not talking about shifting completely, but having another, a foot in North America through Fredericton?
Well, I mean, the simplest thing is to reach out. My guess would be to start with yourself. Mutu is a partner of the University of New Brunswick in India, and a very close ally of ours. And he can talk to you about the region. He's been here and probably knows as many people in the city of Fredericton as I do. And see if there is that fit between idea and destination. Because as much as people want to move, remember it's your company, and don't try to fit a square peg into a round hole. You shouldn't do that. make sure that there is a connection and that you're not just trying to do it just to get a toehold somewhere. We will introduce you to people. We do have 2 accelerators. You can apply. Actually, our applications are open now for Energia and the Summer Institute. I'll send you the links, Mutu, tomorrow. I'll write myself a note because I'm going to forget it because it is now 1:15.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing is just have a discussion with somebody, reach out, have a chat with Mutu, get my contact, give me a shout. I'm always open to have a chat with anybody to see if not only is there a fit to find potential partners or somebody on the ground that you can work with, but is this the right region to be doing it? We're on the Atlantic coast. We are near the oceans. If you're looking for large crops, if you are looking, we do a lot of work with exoskeletal work at our biomedical research facility. That's great. But if you're looking for brain injuries, I would suggest Toronto. If you're looking, in Canada, you also have everybody down in Boston, and it's a phenomenal place to do medical device work. But so it's understanding if there is that fit that's there, and if there is a potential partner or champion for you to do some work in that area.
I think that's very good advice, because they need to find out what they want to do first. But one of the good things about is culturally, there's not much of difference. I mean, it's easy to adopt into the societies in Fredericton, or in any part of Canada, right? So that's an added advantage, I guess, for that would be the reason why you're having so much immigrants who are becoming entrepreneurs, because it's much easier for them to do that than
yeah, I mean, Atlantic Canada has decided that innovation, entrepreneurship are the backbone of what it is. The country was born here, and Canadians were immigrants and small business people to start with, and they have been the center of everything we do in Atlantic Canada. There's not a lot of massive businesses here. There's a few. We have the Irvings, we have the McCains. I mean, if you go around, you see these large companies. They are multi-billion-dollar companies. We're not far away from that whole megalopolis from Philadelphia, Washington, New York, Boston. That's not very far away. But here it is the small business. It is the startup. It is the self-sufficient person who's got an idea, who wants to work for themselves and develop their idea and be able to get their technology to market. And it can be done from here because we are well connected, not just to the rest of Canada, but to the United States, as well to Europe through UK. So we do have that very strong connection. And I mean, it's a 4-hour flight for us to London. From Halifax, 5.5 maybe, but still it's not very far. It's a lot closer than having to fly to Chennai, but it's not very far. And so those connections, it's all located here. Time zones work okay. 9.5 hour difference to India. But we're only an hour time difference, Toronto, Montreal, New York, Boston, Chicago, and we're only 4-hour time difference to London, to GMT. So, and 4 hours to the West Coast as well. So, we fit quite well in between.
Correct. I mean, I can definitely vouch for what you have said earlier. I mean, I think I first arrived there in 2009 or 2010. There was not much happening. And the last 10 years, probably in the last 5 years, you've really grown tremendously in terms of entrepreneurship, especially in Fredericton, because in Atlantic Canada at that time, if you needed to do anything, everybody went to Halifax. I think that is now not the case anymore. People are quite happy sitting in Fredericton, even St. John's, and a few other cities around Atlantic Canada. I mean, I remember you guys taking me around when I first came more than 10 years ago, especially my good buddy Chris Mathis, who was driving me around most of Canada, and we used to be and he used to say, there's not much for you to do, why you keep coming here? And then things have changed. after that, and now, there's lots and lots of things. And he was one of those people driving around all the universities, as you remember,
Yeah.
now gone on to do his own entrepreneurship. So you're right. When Narendra became the chair and you moved from the president office to help him out in the center, I think things have started happening at UNB, which is great. So that actually is, you need a driver. If you have a driver, the bus moves. Otherwise, the bus doesn't get full. So I think that's actually very encouraging for people in anywhere listening to us right now. So I think I should let you go because it's getting a little late, but you're most welcome to stay with us. We have a very exciting panel discussion. You know some of the members on the panel. Samantha is coming. We have Padma Chandrasekhar. We also have Dr. Balakrishnan. You know Krishnan Balakrishnan. Krishnan, we actually have two Balakrishans on the panel. One is Krishnan, and the other is from the SRMC. We have started working with the local hospital quite a bit. So they're coming along on the panel discussion. You're most welcome to stay with us, but we fully understand if you need to go and get your beauty sleep.
Well, as you see, I need as much beauty sleep as I can get. So I appreciate that statement. But listen, I wouldn't have missed this for the world. It was great to see you, my friend.
Always great to see you.
And thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah.
Pratisha, it's so nice to see you. Sorry, your picture's down in the bottom corner, so I'm waving to you. And I am going to take my leave, but thank you very much for this opportunity. And if anybody does have any questions, please reach out through Mutu, and I'm happy to have a chat with anyone.
Okay. Take care, and I'll talk to you soon. I'm working on the student pitches. You will get some. Don't worry.
Perfect. Okay? And give my best to Sam.
Yeah, I will do. Yeah, you take care and talk soon.
Take care.
Okay,
bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Back to Archana.
Thank you, sir, and thank you, Dominic, for the session. So now we'll move on to the next. I would request Pratishtha Jain, Senior Incubation Manager at IITM HTIC MedTech Incubator, to take us through the overview of HTIC. Over to you, Pratishtha.
Thank you, Archana. I will just share my screen. Just give me a moment. Screen visible?
Yes, Pratishtha, yes.
Okay. So good morning, everybody. My name is Pratishtha. I'm part of HTIC's MedTech Incubator. So we'll do a very quick run through about what HTIC has done in the last few years and what does it intend to do and how it has grown and sort of impacted in the MedTech ecosystem nationwide. Also, because of our CEOs Connect, we're trying to get some really good global connect. So we've also gotten some opportunities to provide some support to our startups in terms of funding and also exploring market opportunities. So with that, I'll just get started. So HTIC is a healthcare technology innovation center. We are a joint initiative by IIT Madras and Department of Biotechnology, Government of India. We're supported very well we're supported by BIRAC under the BioIndia scheme. We're also supported by multiple other government agencies. The focus of the center is to impact healthcare through collaborative technology innovation. So over the few years, we've managed to get some traction, and we've also gotten some recognitions from the government bodies to become partners and associates for different flagship programs. So one of them being we're associate by BIRAC's big partner for the flagship program for biotechnology ignition grant. We're also the Sparse Center supported by BIRAC for the social innovation. We're also a satellite center for Kawaj's program supported by DST. And recently, we've also been given the training center, DST's training program for entrepreneurship. So before we get into the nitty-gritties of HTIC, and I'd like to bring a quick snapshot of the HTIC's innovation ecosystem, which is built. So HTIC has two parts to the center. The predominant part, which was initiated in 2012, was research. And to build on the research capabilities, the MedTech Incubator was set up. And fortunately, the MedTech Incubator has gotten a very good leadership, and we also gotten some great traction, and gotten some really good startups, engineers, serial entrepreneurs come on board. So the center was established in 2012, and by now we've actually gotten great support, over 30 plus collaborators, 80 plus engineers and researchers, student faculty members, 4 technologies in the market, and also 5 technology platforms and products in pipeline. So we have about 35 projects executed already in terms of translation research and commercial research for industry and government bodies. We've also been fortunate to receive funding from industry and government bodies, over 45 crores of funding. We've also published about 140 journals and in leading global conferences, filed 12 patents. Also, more than 25 startups have been incubated, 40 plus pre-incubated, and we also have very experienced doctors, researchers, engineers, serial entrepreneurs, building a really good foundation for the medtech entrepreneurship at HTIC. So when you look at the innovation ecosystem at HTIC, we have 4 predominant elements and support that we've gathered. So the first element is our engineers. That's the core element where we work with all around the world. We also have built some good international connects with universities across the globe, in Queensland University of Technology, in Cold Spring Harbor Laboratory, and universities in Finland. Also, our host university is IIT Madras, so we've gotten some great support from faculty members and also alumni of IIT Madras. So in terms of industry, we worked with various industry players like GE, Medtronic, Stryker, J Mitra, Forest, Perfin, Saskin, Tata, Inaxel, etc. And we've also managed to deliver some very interesting products that have gotten commercialized. I will be talking about the technologies that have translated in a bit. We also have great support from healthcare organizations and clinicians, from Mediscan, Ramachandra, Savita, EMRI, Shankar Netralaya, and supporting our startups as well as our researchers in getting their products and solutions clinically tested and validated. Of course, needless to say, we've gotten great support from DBT, DST, BIRAC, and other nodal government bodies in helping us building this innovation system, which happens to be #1 medtech innovation system in nationwide today. We've translated 4 predominant technologies. The first one was mobile eye surgical unit, which was developed in collaboration with Shankar Netralaya. So this is a delivery unit to do cataract operations. There's a huge dearth for cataract operations in India, as people who are affected with cataract do not get access to healthcare in rural areas, especially getting operated for cataract. They might also lose their eyesight. So there was this delivery unit which was designed, developed, and commercialized. If you look at the picture here, there are 2 buses standing in tandem, and there's a vestibule which connects one bus to the other. The first bus is converted into a preparatory unit, and the vestibule connects it to the other bus, which is an operative unit, which is completely modular and is completely self-sufficient in terms of air, clean water, air filtrations, and sterilization, and also power backup, which is required for running operative theater. So we've done about 14,000 surgeries so far. 2 units are out there in the market, and about 100 plus scams have been done for MISU. So this has also been approved by the by Ministry of Health as a delivery model to do cataract operations today. So the other product that was developed at HTIC is IPAC. It is a multifunctional ophthalmic screening software, which is embedded in a device called Trinetra, which is developed in collaboration with Forest. Just a second, sorry. Yeah, was developed in collaboration with Forest, which is a very young medtech startup based out of Bangalore. So this is a multifunctional ophthalmic screening device, Trinetra, which can do tests like T3, can do tests like glaucoma, diabetic retinopathy, your refractive errors, etc., without actually dilating your eye. The highlight of this device is that you don't have to dilate your eye, and it's a dry screening test. All you have to do is put your head through the camera, and your anomalies will be detected. So 2.5 million screenings have been done, and 2,600 devices have been sold in 28 different countries. So an offshoot of IPAC is actually IPAC Trinetra Neo, which is also developed in collaboration with Forest. So that is a handheld device which goes right inside the eye of the baby, and it is a pre-screening device for babies who have ROP, which is retinopathy of prematurity, which is a huge disorder in premature babies. So this is to help them in identifying the retinal structures early on and identifying any deformities might be there, and helping them in getting their retinal structures treated early on to avoid any sort of eye complications later. So about 100,000 screenings have been done, and 100 plus devices have been sold in 9 plus different countries. So this is also part of Forest MedTech. These are the two ophthalmic screening devices that have been developed in collaboration with Forest. Another very classic industry collaboration was with iQuant, which is with iQuant, in fact. So this is developed in collaboration with JMitra, a very is again a very one of the leading diagnostic manufacturing companies based out of Delhi. So this device was developed to focus on developing portable diagnostic kits like T3, T4, HbA1c, influenza, etc. So this is an immunodiagnostic test kit that can do multiple tests in very rapidly. So all it requires is a small piece of device, and there's a small test kit that goes inside, reads the data and quantifies the data, and the results come out quantitatively on the screen. So this has also been developed, and about 350 instruments have been manufactured, and the target is to reach about 5,000 labs in a year's time. So these are the four devices that have been commercialized. On the pipeline, we have a very strong R&D pipeline, which is in collaboration with industry and healthcare organizations. So another imaging technology, which is built in collaboration with JMitra to build a smart endoscope. Physiological sensing devices also being like Fitbits and other activity trackers. We also have a strong team working in the robotic surgery space, and we're also getting bigger in point of care diagnostic space. So if you look at, the center is based in the IIT Madras Research Park, which is the only research park attached to the university in the country, standalone research park, and we are facilitated in the park right behind the campus. So the facility is about 17,000 square feet, which is split between research and incubation. Our research facility looks something like this. So if you look at it, the place is very openly designed with clusters, and the vibe and the dynamics that was intended to create at the floor of HTIC was to keep it more vibrant, open, collaborative, and street style. So we work in clusters, and the desks are very modular and to suit the requirements of medtech researchers and startups. So this is a research facility. We would be I mean, not today, but today is a virtual tour, but we'd be happy to take you around the facility sometime once we all are vaccinated. So the incubation facility looks like this. Again, this is a very open collaborative space. We do not have too many closed spaces. The closed spaces are reserved for people who want to have meetings and for more mature startups. The spaces are typically open spaces and also more dynamic and multifunctional. So the research facility is also the research facility also is has a lot of equipment and machineries that the startups and researchers can access for the development. In terms of impact, we've incubated over 25 startups, 5 more startups on the pipeline. About 130 startups have been supported under various programs that we've run. The incubated startups alone have raised over 6 crores of funding and generated about 100 employees, and about 70% of our startups are currently funded. 70% of our incubated startups are currently funded. So we run multiple programs. The first program that we start with is the Pre-Incubation program, which is curated for startups, budding entrepreneurs at the ideation stage or early stages of development. So this is a very nascent early stages. It's for startups at very early stages and nascent stages, where they spend about 3 to 6 months for them to refine and crystallize the ideas, of providing mentoring and facility support. So we run multiple programs under the pre-incubation. We have our generic pre-incubation, a more structured pre-incubation, which is called the accelerated pre-incubation program. And we also run an advanced mentoring program for startups who are just about ready to get into incubation. The incubation program is an 18 to 36 months program where startups are provided with business support services, technical and other mentoring and support for their development. They also get access to infrastructure, facility, funding opportunities to complete their product development, and also help move towards commercialization and market access. So we have about 25 startups incubated and 5 startups are in progress getting formulated for the incubation program. So one more program that we run for social fellows, it's called the Sparse program, which is also supported by BioIndia. It is a social innovation program for products affordable and relevant to societal health. This is a social immersion program supporting social innovators that identify specific needs and gaps in healthcare, particularly maternal health and child health. The social innovators are provided with the financial and technical support for providing market-based solutions, and they potentially then get into a commercial pathway and move into pre-incubation or incubation. So we have about 5 Sparse fellows right now working in different areas of maternal health and trying to look. The other program is the Kawaj program, which is focused on COVID-19 health crisis. So we're a satellite center for the Center of Augmenting War with COVID-19 Health Crisis, Kawaj. Kawaj is aimed in providing financial support to startups innovating in the area of diagnostics, devices, informatics, and to provide them with some sort of support financially and in terms of technical support for startups who are trying to solve problems that are trying to solve problems who are in the space of COVID-19 faced during this pandemic. So the other very recent program is the DST training program for entrepreneurship. So we have 3 programs under the training program for DST, which is the Technical Entrepreneurship Development Program, focused on technical entrepreneurship, Women Entrepreneurship Development Program, and Faculty Development Program. We're running multiple cohorts, 3 cohorts for TEDP, 3 cohorts for WEDP, and 2 cohorts for FDP right now. In terms of support that is extended to our startup, we have a wide range of support given to the startups. So we have a very wide pool of mentors, serial entrepreneurs, investors, domain experts, industry heads who interact with our startups on a regular basis. Also IITM faculty and investor partners who also provide them support and guidance from time to time. Business support services for startups who are incubated in terms of accounting, CS, legal, IP, design, HR, etc. Also value additions to our startups by developing some interesting startup programs like Ask Me Anything, Knowledge Tuesdays, learning and networking events, expert talks, knowledge sessions. Also they also have the access to reach the medtech equipment and technical assistance from HTIC researchers. They also get to be connected to investor connects and also startup hiring and internship, job fairs, and institutional visits. So the IITM Innovation Fund under the seed funding program is for incubated startups. They can access the IITM Innovation Fund. Obviously, we have a committee in place to decide on the funding. So we have grants, loans, convertible notes, funding that are enabled from government, PSUs and corporates, etc. So the funding ranges from 5 lakhs to 35 to 40 lakhs, depending on the requirement of the startup and the nature of the fund. Obviously, startups also get to access state-of-art facility, so office space and infrastructure, which is right in the heart of the city, and also in a very vibrant ecosystem at IITM Research Park. So the startups can also access MedTech facility, workshops, product demo zones, startup lounges, etc. for access. So these are some of our startups. I'm not going to go into detail for our startups, but I'm just going to quickly talk about a few startups that have created some impression in the past. So Medicine VR is innovative virtual reality surgical simulation haptic feedback device focusing on training and experiences for medical field. ZMed is provides ecosystem of products for intensive care units. Kernu provides assistance technology for accurate identification and 2 acupuncture points for faster localization under patient-specific 3D models. 3D MedTech, C3 MedTech focuses on affordable and portable smartphone ophthalmic screening devices. Swasthchain is developing healthcare solutions to provide accessible use for voice-enabled technology. And Dextrovare is developing assistive technology for hands-free for the differently enabled. BioHub is developing a platform for microbiome diagnosis analysis. Rusty is an artificial intelligence platform, and Streben is focusing on stress monitoring stress levels. iMove is developing devices for independent creating for people who have rehabilitation issues after stroke. Cornerstone is developing angular guidance CD guided needle navigation system for people who are for speeder cancer treatment. And these are some of our other startups. Bazak working again on VR and AR technology. We are focusing on national orifice surgery and training simulation to allow students and practitioners to hone their surgical skills. So these are some of the startups incubated at HTIC. These are our partnerships and linkages, investment and funding arms, healthcare units who are supporting the startups for clinical pathways and clinical validation, network and association that is extended for support and to get more reach and provide more support to the medtech entrepreneurs out there. And of course, BIRAC, who has greatly supported us in the past and continues to support us. DST, who also supports us in various programs. BioNest is the program that we are part of under BIRAC, and our host institute, IIT Madras, for the tremendous support they've provided. Thank you so much. Hope to see you guys at our center sometime. Over to Archana.
Thank you, Pratishtha, for taking us in detail through HTIC. Now we'll take a virtual tour of our incubator. So I'll just start sharing my screen so that we'll take a virtual tour of our incubator. So as you could see, this is the entrance of HTIC. As mentioned, this is split into 2 parts, the research and the incubator side. So this is for the Sparse Fellows, a social innovation entrepreneurship program. We have 5 fellows who are working on maternity and child health, and we'll be opening the next call for aging and health. So as you could see, this is our research site. Our teams has been working on various research. So 5 research is under pipeline, as previously mentioned in the presentation. So this team is currently working on robotic spine surgery. As you could see, the equipments over there. So this space is specifically for the team who are working on the robotic surgery, spine robotic surgery. And we do have facilities, research facilities in this floor. We have soldering stations. As you could see, these facilities can also be used by our startups for their product validation. So this is one of our facility for soldering station. So this is our research floor. The team which is on the left, they are working on iQuant. As mentioned in previous presentation, the team is working on bringing more number of tests to the device. And this team, they're working on developing India's first endoscopy, indigenous endoscopy. So as you could see, the space is designed in a street style way. There are different clusters in the floor. So each cluster, each team is working on specific research. So this team is working on diagnostics. As you could see, there are different clusters in the floor, and this is our demo room where we'll showcase the 4 technologies that has been translated by HTIC. As mentioned in the previous presentation, the technologies like MISU, Mobile Eye Surgical Unit, Trinetra Neo, Trinetra, and iQuant. So under the pipeline, they're working on robotic surgery, building India's first endoscopy, wearables in sensing, also on point of care devices. So this is our balcony. We have a terrace garden. This balcony is for the research team and for the incubation team, just a resting place for the researchers and the incubated startups and the HTIC team members. As you could see, we have a small pantry over there. So in this balcony, we do have a hanging meeting room for taking very short meetings. As you could see in the screen, we do have this hanging meeting room set up in our balcony. So we have seen the research side, and this is our space for incubator. So this is called our Curious Room. We used to conduct lunch and learn sessions and Curious program for students to know about the medical technology. And this facility is also used by our pre-incubated startups currently, as we are not running any programs physically. So this space is for the incubated startups. We have over 25 startups being incubated. Our startups are working in different domains on medtech space, say AR, VR, artificial intelligence, assistive technologies. So we have each team working on their allotted spaces. We have few meeting rooms in the floor to take up meetings for the startups. So we'll be very happy to have you physically to our incubator. You can drop us at our incubator. We'll be happy to take you around. So with this, we'll move to the next session. The next session is on opportunities for startups in USA. The session is by Ms. Mary Ann Picard. She's M2D2 Director of Operations from University of Massachusetts, USA. So we have pre-recorded the session with her as there is a time difference. She's in USA. So we have already pre-recorded the session. I'll just start sharing my screen. Just give me a minute.
Hi, I've got with me my good friend Marianne and Brandon from M2D2 from University of Massachusetts.
Just give me a minute. I'm just sharing my screen.
From Boston, who would. Hi, I've got with me my good friend Marianne and Brandon from M2D2 from University of Massachusetts from Boston, who would share with us what they do at M2D2 and how startups from here in India and the American startups can benefit by working together. So welcome to you, Marianne and Brandon. And Marianne, over to you to get started.
All right, thank you, Muthu, for having us this morning. Brendan and I will share a bit about M2D2. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I think this is a great collaboration where we can discuss how startups can benefit from the Boston ecosystem and how our startups can benefit from your ecosystem. So M2D2 stands for Massachusetts Medical Device Development Center. And that's really how it started, with a sole focus on medical device. We have since expanded the program, and we are an incubator for promising medical device and biotech startups. In Massachusetts, we have 3 facilities, and they all provide wet lab resources. We have shared labs, we have private labs, and we also have a small location right on the campus of the UMass Medical School, which is a first-in-class medical campus here in the US, specifically just west of Boston. The infrastructure, as you can see here, it includes all the equipment and resources. We provide admin support. We have lab operations, management, and support. There's a whole host of programming that includes mentoring, office hours with subject matter experts where you can ask questions, get advice, get feedback. We provide assistance with federal grant programs, which you'll hear more about in just a couple of minutes. You also have access to core research facilities at both campuses. We are a joint program, UMass Lowell and the UMass Medical School, and both have a very robust set of core research facilities. More than 60 cores are represented that you have access to. M2D2 was founded in 2008. It began with a small seed grant from the president's office. UMass is a 5-campus system, and it was an incentive for their different campuses to work together. So we were awarded that grant and immediately started this program. Again, the 2 campuses, Lowell and the medical school. And that is how the program got started. And then twice in 2010 and 2015, the program was awarded 2 additional grant funds from the Massachusetts Life Sciences Center, which is a quasi-state agency. So that is how we were able to build out the facilities and really grow to the stage that we are at today. Our mission is economic development, to help small companies to grow, to attract them to Massachusetts, then to help them grow, help them stay here, It can be a subsidiary location, so you can be co-located in India and in Massachusetts. And we're able to, in this way, we're able to contribute to the economic development of the Commonwealth. We have managed, this is the leadership team. Steve Tello comes out of the UMass Lowell Manning School of Business. He has now recently been promoted to a vice provost position, and there I am. There's Brennan, who helps with the operations, as well as he's also the barter program manager on the government funding side. Pam McGinnis is the director of lab operations. She manages the 11,000 square foot shared lab, which is very similar to a program that you would find in Kendall Square, Cambridge. And then on the UMass Medical School side of the house, we have Nate Hafer, who leads the translational science initiative there. And we have Dr. David McManus, who is a renowned cardiologist. And that makes up our leadership team. I'll turn it over to Brennan. He can talk a little bit about our impact to date.
Hi, everyone. So this is a slide that gives a little glance at our impact. So currently we have 42 resident startups within our incubator, and we also within our network have 60 startups that we provide resources to via the UMass system. Some funding that we have helped our startups secure. So from fiscal years 2013 to 2018, we've secured $18 million in SBIR funding for our startups and $161 million in angel and VC investments. Being part of the UMass system, we like to support students, and working together with our partner Mass Life Sciences with their Internship Challenge program, we have secured 112 internships for students across Massachusetts within our residence companies. 18 of those students have now been converted to full-time position within those companies, and 23 have been converted to part-time. Within our incubator program, we have had 20 companies successfully graduate to date. And actually within 2021, we had another 2. So more graduations are coming. A little touching on our programming. In 2019, we hosted 21 events, and that was to over 1,200 attendees. In 2020, we hosted 26 events, and that was to over 1,800 attendees. Our 200K challenge. So this is a global competition that we host annually that focuses on rewarding startups in the medtech and biotech spaces, and they receive in-kind awards from our corporate sponsors. As you can see here, the program has grown quite tremendously over the years. We started with 25K in in-kind services from Nutter, and now we are at 200K, and we have a whole host of sponsors that provide in-kind services. And our reach has also grown as well. We started with 28 applicants, and it was more on a regional scale. Now in 2020, we had 175 applicants that we accepted, and this was on a global scale that we reached across the US and abroad.
So this slide just really outlines some of the resources that are available. I mentioned a little bit before, we provide wet labs, as well as office space. The wet labs are both shared and private. Office space is both shared and private. Equipment is provided as part of the large 11,000 square foot facility. Everything is included. And we also offer prototyping equipment in the way of 3D printing, as well as other resources. And then we have spaces that the companies have access to more broadly on campus. In terms of funding opportunities, we are able to make introductions to investors, to our strategic partners. We host pitch events, as Brendan was talking about. The largest program of the year is the 200K challenge. And then we also do others throughout the year. We have a very large Shark Tank-like program that we call Barracuda Bowl. And then we also offer assistance with federal grant programs. And then on the more on the programming side, specifically around mentoring and office hours, it covers all the necessary areas. Legal, and that's legal is both in terms of establishing a business, establishing a subsidiary location. If you want to co-locate in Massachusetts, they're able to help with that, and as well as intellectual property. And then also on the technical science engineering side, clinician review is provided through the UMass Medical School. They can also give some early advice on clinical trials. Again, business, we have MBA students, as well as other business experts who are able to help the companies, again, with fundraising. We have a preferred partner in the regulatory space to help prepare for the FDA, and then also assistance with grant writing, SBIR, STTR, and then Brendan will talk more about that as well.
So this is our federal programs we have at M2D2. Our first federal program is we are a BARDA Drive Incubator. So BARDA is the Biomedical Advanced Research and Development Authority, and we're part of their DRIVE program, which is their division of research, innovation, and ventures. We were selected through a competitive process, and we are one of 13 incubators accelerators across the United States that was chosen for this initiative. We socialize BARDA's areas of interest, which include a lot of health security issues, and their funding opportunities that are applicable to their areas of interest. We meet one-on-one with startups to answer any questions that they have in regards to the BARDA process and review their technology to see if it aligns well with BARDA's areas of interest. For the DRIVE funded companies, we provide technical and business assistance, as well as business development support services.
And then we have CAPCAT, which is the Center for Advancing Point of Care Technologies. This is the funding comes directly from the NIH to us. We are a sub-awardee, and then we further have sub-awardees that we give out the funds to. We give 4 to 5 awards each year of approximately $125,000 each, and that includes indirect. So the actual non-dilutive funding that the awardee receives is roughly $100,000. This is an annual request for applications. It is a competitive process, and it's actually in process right now as well. It is open to international startups as long as the work is done in the U.S. That the money will be spent on typically on a study or other work, as long as the funds are expended in the U.S. International startups are eligible. We participated both UMass Lowell, UMass Medical School, and M2D2. We participated heavily in the RADx program. We continue to do so. This was a national call for innovative COVID-19 testing approaches with the idea to increase testing dramatically over a very short period of time, or at a really frenetic pace, in fact, and that is continuing. We're waiting to see. Right now, it goes through May, and we're waiting to see if there's going to be if that's going to be extended. This just gives you an idea of how M2D2 responded to the pandemic. We remained open for business. We received essential designation from the state, which was no easy task being within a university environment. We were able to move in 6 new resident companies during this time. One company did fail, 2 expanded. We've had quite an uptick in inquiries. The desire to leave densely populated areas is what we attribute this to. We've been able to maintain programming, and as Brendan mentioned earlier, you probably noticed that the number of attendees actually went up during the pandemic. And I think that is just because of the virtual format, making it so much more convenient from people anywhere to participate. On the CAPCAT side, the NIH did give us additional funding for startups who are working on COVID-19 technologies. So we were able to complete a round there as well. And we received some publicity around our COVID-19 efforts. And these are the links if you'd like to take a look at those. We are quite proud of the fact that we drew some local attention. These are our major corporate sponsors. We are at Johnson & Johnson J Labs location as well. And this is a whole host of other sponsors who contribute in a number of different ways to our program. Just a couple of fun facts. No affiliation with UMass is required. The 10th annual global competition is underway. If you'd like more information, don't hesitate to reach out. And we are preparing for the 2nd annual International MedTech Forum, which will take place in October. And this is with Mutu's support from HTIC, as well as from the Deshpande Foundation. And here's a link to a virtual tour if you'd like to take a look, jot that down. And I think that's Mutu. I can turn it back to you.
Great. Thank you so much for such a short introduction, but a very valuable introduction for the startups here in India. I have a question. Those grants you were talking about, can they be applied purely by companies from international, or do they have to have an affiliation in the US or do they have to move to the US? Those are my two questions on that.
Sure. Brendan, I'll let you answer for BARDA, and then I can take the others.
Yeah, sure. In terms of BARDA, you do not have to be located in the US. They do prefer that if you manufacture that it's done in the US, but in terms of receiving the actual grant award, you do not have to be a US-based company.
Okay, so that would actually help lots of the Indian companies who don't want to move, but they just want to use their manufacturing out of the US would be suitable. That's great. And sorry, Marianne, you want to add anything?
Oh, that's okay. For the 200K challenge, it is not required either. We welcome international applications. For the CAPCAT, the Center for Advancing Point of Care Technologies, as I mentioned, you can be located outside of the US, but they do require that the work or the study be done within the US, that the funds are expended for.
That again, I think is not a difficult thing to do. That's fairly, it's doable. So that's,
yeah.
And another thing which I like to also, since this is supposed to be the global BioIndia, I mean, obviously we would also like to see incoming and not just outgoing. So do you see startups in the Boston area, in particular in N222, would benefit maybe visiting after, I mean, obviously we can't do that. We've talked about this before COVID, that we would have a team to come from, the startups to come from the US to here. Do you see many of them would be attracted to the Indian market? You know, especially healthcare. It's a big thing, not only in India, but everywhere in the world.
Yes, the startups are definitely interested in tapping into the resources available in India. We have had we've had affiliation with some startups who have done that already successfully. One in particular is a prosthetic device. They made great advances by finding a partner in India. So I think if there is a way to put on a program or some awareness like activities, we could definitely take advantage of that and share it with our startup companies.
Okay, I think we should do that as time goes on, and hopefully COVID will disappear in the next few months, and then we can start doing that. So I want to say thank you to both of you for being here on such short notice, very early in the morning. It's better than, I suppose, I make you get up very late at night and be there in live. So it was good having both of you, and we'll continue to keep the conversations going as you and I have done for the last many years. So hopefully after COVID, we'll get another arrange for startups to, I mean, we've already done that once before, and we were unfortunate we couldn't do it last year. Hopefully we'll get back on it again this year. And we also last year decided to increase the number after you and I discussed. So hopefully we'll be able to keep increasing the numbers, finally bring maybe 12 every year or so. And that would be something which we will look forward for. So I thank you both for
Absolutely.
Thank you for being here. And some of the startups might contact you. Please do
Absolutely.
what you can do for them. Thank you so much to both of you.
Thanks again for having us. Take care.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
So with that, now I pass it on to Sumitra, a program manager at IITM HTIC MedTech Incubator, to take up the startup demos. Over to you, Sumitra.
Thank you, Archana. So we have 6 startups for the demos. So the first startup is Debian Healthcare. So can we have Arvind sir and Kumar sir? And I request the startups to maintain their time. So since we are running out of time, so please make sure that your demos are below 5 minutes.
Thanks, this is Kumar, and I also have Arvind, who's logged in from Pune. So quickly, I will get started straight. I'll just share the screen. Okay. So primarily, we are into developing the equipment to objectively measure the stress. Just to give a little brief, stress is a universal problem, and I don't have to go about this data, but there is a huge loss in the industry due to the stress related, and moreover, the stress is the #1 cause for the lifestyle diseases. So this was a trigger to our problem. So we kind of zeroed in on developing a device which is kind of non-invasive point of care device for measuring the physiological stress response to the stress. And the underlying technology that we are using is the heart rate variability. This has been developed in-house at the IIT HealthTech Innovation Center, HTIC. And we have done the clinical studies and clinical trials are done with collaboration with Sri Ramchandra Medical College. And we are in the process of applying the patent. So just to tell you a little bit more about it, we do measure the heart rate variability over a period of 10 to 12 minutes, and we couple it with the blood pressure. Then we do the time domain and frequency domain analysis. And we are also applying a correction factor for confounding factors, like if a person is diabetic or if a person is having a hypertension, that can also have effect on the heart rate variability. So we are culling out those variations and coming out with a stress score. We give a stress score of 0 to 100, with the 0 being the zombie state or the happiest state, and 100 being the highly stressed state. Without much going into ado, I will just show you, I'll stop sharing the screen and show you the device. So that way you will have the idea of what the device is. This is the device. And I have a patient which is my son. It's a simple ECG device, single lead ECG device with 4 clamps being clamped to the arms and legs. And here taking the heart rate measurement over a period of 15 minutes, with the first 5 for allowing them to kind of normalize. Then the 7 to 8 minutes is our region of interest, and in between we do take the blood pressure twice. This way we also know the blood pressure effect on it. So at the end of it, we come to a score that gives us what this thing. Let me just share you the monitor that we have. So we just take the ECG. With this patient being a little moving, so that is the reason that we give that first 5 minutes of calm down time, so that we take the right beats. So approximately we take about 600 beats for our analysis, and with our AI engine we come with the score. So on a basis of score of 0 to 100, we grade the per patient whether he's stressed or not. Okay, and that's it from my end. Any questions?
There is no question, sir. And thank you, sir, since we are running out of time. So thank you, sir. So the next startup is Teslon. Can we have Harsha?
Yeah, hello everyone. I'll just start sharing my screen and take you through what Teslon does. Just let me know when you can see my screen, Sumitra.
Yes, Harsha.
Yeah, so basically Teslon is a healthcare startup again, and we were part of this Kawaj program, and we've been associated with HTIC since then. We have been working as a startup on the healthcare domain. The product that we the platform that we create is called Care Nation. It tries to address this problem of access to quality healthcare, right? And in this thing, in the journey so far, what we have tried to do is do this traditional telemedicine where we are connecting this PHC to the multi-speciality hospitals. So that's the first form factor that you see here. And what we have tried to do is try to ensure that we can replicate all the transactions or interactions that happens between the doctor and patient in an in-person consultation over a remote virtual channel. So we have like connected devices that take in data and then directly send it to the doctor, as well as put it into the patient records. And these are not just limited to the vital devices, but also ECG, point of care testing devices, a digital stethoscope, and even different video probes starting from dermatoscope to otoscope to even endoscopes. We have then gone into like the inverse use of telemedicine, where the patient is within a multi-speciality and the doctor is probably at his home or at a remote center. So we have these cards that were used within the ICU and the other wards for doing virtual visits. We have also done other interesting things like the medicine vending machines that we have done for remote areas, where we have deployed our telemedicine stations, and then after the consultation we can get the prescription vended out through the vending machine. We've also done a lot of things around AI and healthcare, where we have done this batch processing model in terms of screening, and also in terms of live telemedicine augmented AI as well. There's also this other thing that we get into where we are doing this remote patient monitoring from home using the phones, and also even getting this telemedicine accessibility into remote tribal regions and stuff using tablets and stuff. What we also have done during this last COVID period is that, made it more accessible for patients and for the hospitals to roll out their telemedicine program. So we have like a zero install kind of telemedicine thing as well, which I'll demo in a minute. So all of this things actually kind of translate into multiple projects that we have done around smart cities and then private hospitals, even the government healthcare projects as well. And here you can see like, different form factors that kind of, maps on to the platform. So the last 6 years, this is what we have tried to do, and then get into different fields. But at the same time, the core focus is about trying to see how we can bridge this thing between the doctor and the or the care provider and, the patient who is actually receiving the care. We have done a lot of things in India as well as worldwide. So the software that we built is actually built to global standards, and we've been able to kind of not just do a lot of projects within India, but also take the same learnings and then the mature software, and then do like projects like Greece, where we are running their national telemedicine program, and also a lot of different countries in the Latin American region as well as in the Middle East now. So what I'll do is I'll just quickly hop onto the demo, and just before that, I'll just show you some pictures. So this is the thing that we did for the COVID thing. So the same tele-ICU cart was used for COVID care. We did kind of tweak the workflows so that it is suitable for COVID care. And these are some of the pictures where we have done this thing within the Victoria Hospital and Case General Hospital. This is the inauguration that we did, and also a lot of different hospitals in India where COVID care was delivered through our carts. And we have been doing the same thing as a replication where recently we have shipped some of our cards to the Middle East and UAE, where we are setting up a hospital with COVID care with Care Nation. So what I'll do is, since I can't really demo the cards today, I'll just take you through the most simplest form factor, which is a link, right? I mean, for a hospital to roll out this telemedicine thing, they just need to kind of sign up, and then we kind of onboard their doctors. And it takes about like 24 hours to kind of, just set this up, and they can start up their telemedicine program. So this would be a link which can be sent out as an SMS mailer or, emails, or even within their website, they can just embed this. So here I'm just going to kind of start typing in. I can go by specialties as well, or I can just say book a consultation. I see the slots that are available for the consultation. What I can do is I can enter in my details and say get an OTP. So it just sends out an OTP. Let me just do the OTP.
Sorry, Harsha, your time is up. Maybe you can wrap in another 10 to 15 seconds.
Sure, yeah. So just very simple. So what I was trying to say is that, so what we would try to do is make it really simple for the hospitals to roll out telemedicine, so that, it becomes really easy for anyone who is, trying to kind of get into telemedicine. And at the same time, the platform comes with the whole sort of extensible use cases, where you can use the same, kind of a platform that you're deployed for your first level of outreach into different things like, spoke clinics and then ICU care, ICU monitoring. So a single platform that kind of helps you address different things about virtual care. So you also get like an appointment email as well. So just pressing this link will actually get you into an appointment. So that is as simple as that. So it also complies with the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare guidelines. And we've been able to do a lot of these things in terms of, kind of trying to get functional telemedicine without having to kind of do a lot of investments. So this is where I'll stop. I mean, again, the doctor UI is again simple. You have like a doctor waiting and all that. You can just press a button, get into an appointment. If you see, right, I mean, I didn't install anything. It was just, on the fly, and then it gives you full-fledged video, even on the phone. So it actually works on your phone. We have an application as well on the phone for the doctors that can be used to take consultation and then review and all whatnot. So you can do a successful prescription post this as well. So this is where I'll stop in the interest of time. And, if you have any questions, I'll take them.
Yes, sorry. So thank you, Harsha. So since we are running out of time, we will go to the next starter. So the next starter is Code New. We can have David. David, you need to unmute.
Okay. My screen is visible, right, Sumitra?
Yes.
Hello all, very good morning to every one of you. I'm David, co-founder and CEO of Journeymatic Innovations Private Limited. We are a medtech startup incubator at HTIC MedTech.
David, we can't able to hear you.
Okay, so neurologically therapies like acupuncture is scientifically evaluated and recognized system of practice, and it is recognized by WHO and the government of India. Yet a standard systematic approach is missing. We are building a technological solutions to address this problem. As you see on the image on left, the doctor uses the software and hardware to plan the therapy and deliver a precise treatment. Okay, so as you see in this video, a doctor with the experience of around 30 years is treating a patient with cervical spondylitis. A patient is treated at a point little far away from where he is supposed to treat. And this can lead to placebo or no clinical effect. Sometimes lethal adverse events may happen. I'll just go around, no issues. So it is reported that 90% of the time or 60% of the time there exists a problem in localization and needling, and this was very well confirmed by our detailed need analysis. So we come up with a solution just like a GPS in our car. We developed a hardware tool that is navigated by a software to locate the target. So as you can see in this image on the left, this is the entire infrastructure which we are trying to build. The hardware works on the principle of electrodermal conductance method to localize and diagnose the internal physiological status of the organs. And let me show you all the entire workflow of the software. So this is the login page of the software. The doctors can enter into the software using their secure credentials. So once they enter into their login page, they'll have their dashboard where they can look into their patients' health records, and they can add new patients, and they can also see their hardware or software updates that is popping up. And they can go ahead and plan their therapy. We have an interactive 3D model where they can use the interactive 3D model to select the symptoms that they want to treat. Before that, they go ahead and enter the patient's information like height, weight, BMI, because the software takes in all these informations for providing the therapy plan. So here the doctor chooses diabetes mellitus to plan the therapy, and it moves on into a diagnosis phase where the hardware connects with the software, and the software continuously gets the data from the hardware, which gives the internal organ status through the electrodermal impedance as a measurement factor. So once this measurement is done, the software goes in and comes up with a report stating that these organs has a high energy. And since the patient is diabetes mellitus, probably that would be the reason why these three organs have a high energy. So the doctor proceeds to go with the treatment plan where he selects the recommended points. So this recommendation happens based on the patient's physiological conditions, patient's details. Also, it also looks into the literatures and the knowledge base which is fed into the software, which is the biggest asset for this software application. And post that, the doctor selects the treatment that has to be performed. And here the hardware connects with the software, and as you can see, once he locates the point, you can see a peak at that skin conductance value. And the doctor again comes back to revisit the point, and he gets another peak. This confirms the location of the acupuncture point. This gives the scientific evidences which is lagging in the current practice in acupuncture. So once that is done, the system moves into the patient dashboard. And here you can see the treatments data, where how the treatment was progressed, and also the treatments data of how the treatment was progressing for the past 3 sittings. As you can see, it is gradually improving, and this helps the doctors in planning the treatment better in the upcoming sittings as well. Thank you. That's all from my end, Sumitra. Any questions?
So thank you, David. So we will move to the next startup. So next startup is Mozilla.
So we are Team AI Prosthetics, and our idea is to manufacture modern and comfortable artificial limbs for our amputees to be independent and start working again. So the problem with artificial limbs were they weren't very comfortable, and patients' compliance was very poor. And they also have different lengths of amputation. If you see in this picture, and if you see in the other picture as well, different lengths. So it required very custom-made sockets, especially if it's myoelectric limbs. So we came up with a solution. This was our first prototype, myoelectric limb. It was a below elbow prototype, and we made several modifications to it. We even made custom dry electrodes to be placed elsewhere and not at the anchoring point. Those were the differences from our myoelectric limb to the current myoelectric limb products. This was our mechanical below knee prosthesis, and it functions perfectly. So these are our first level prototypes. I have a few videos to share. So this was our first below elbow prototype, and as you can see, he moves his muscle based on my command. Electromyography signals are then converted to motor movements in the hand. So you can see the movement and the movement over here. There is a problem with accuracy with only about 75%, but it works well. This is our above elbow prototype. It is double jointed. It has a manual elbow joint and a manual wrist joint. You can change positions like a doll. For this person, we initially tried so that he can ride a motorbike. We haven't completed the design yet, but this is just the first iteration. As you can see, the accuracy works really well, 75% to 80%, even with some noises, some disturbances, and muscular movements. So that is Team AI Prosthetics, and thank you very much for this presentation.
Thank you, Akshan. So the next startup, the last startup is Bazak. So can we have Rahul? Rahul?
Hi, Sumitra. I'm here. Yeah, I'll share my screen and start my presentation. So, good morning to all of you. Thank you for the opportunity to present here. I'm just going to share my screen and show a quick slide. So, we are a Bazak simulation incubator at IIT MedTech Incubator. So, we are building a VR, immersive VR surgical training platform. The problem we are trying to solve is the use of mannequins and mannequins for a non-immersive media-based training methods for surgical and medical trainings. Sumitra, you can hear me?
Yes, Rahul.
Yes. So in real surgery and real life medical scenarios, the doctors always face complexities in surgery, and there is a lot of patient-specific procedures that are performed, but all these are missing in the current training methods. So here we have a video of a normal surgery of how a laparoscopic surgeon would perform. So you can see here the surgeon performs the laparoscopic surgery with very sharp stillness of his eyes, and his hand movements are very fine where he moves his endoscopic and he moves the laparoscopic tool to perform the surgery. The equipment we have currently is a box trainer, which where you have a piece of sponge below the box, and you move your hands to tie a knot around the sponge and try different exercises. So if you see, there is a sponge inside, and in this method, the trainers can be, the users get trained in hand-eye coordination, manipulation of tools, but we feel that to produce a surgeon, there is a huge surgical skill gap in the current methods, from where a practicing surgeon operates the human anatomy with while viewing the depth of view of an endoscope, and makes quick decisions while making the surgery, and he has the intelligence to perform the surgery to overcome different complexities. These are all the challenges which we took up to solve using an immersive platform. Being experts in the field of VR for the last 4 years, we've developed a SaaS platform where we can develop. We have multiple surgical modules on which users can train using VR with real clinical tools to track their performance on virtually simulated surgeries, to track their skills over key indexes to slowly progress through the curriculum. So this is one of the modules which we've developed using VR, where developed a laparoscopic gallbladder removal surgery. In the VR module, you can completely practice the gallbladder removal surgery. And while you're performing the VR surgery, you're guided through illustrations, animations, and the artificial instructor, where each step of the procedure and different complexities can be developed virtually and simulated for the user to train on them. The advantage of using such a system is you can practice over numerous hours as you would require to perfect any skill, and then you will have a complete virtual patient setup to perform numerous operations of numerous different complexities until you have a grasp of them. And the skill score that we derive, let me just touch upon that. So this is the product, the end product, where you have the surgical simulator unit, which comes as a hardware one-time purchase, along with a SaaS platform where you have the user learning metrics and learning curve data of the user directly being visible, where you can track the progress of the user over key surgical metrics. Also, we are working on a new feature of importing the live patient data into the simulation, where you can have the data metrics of different patients using their CT scan data to be imported into the simulation to create a patient-specific surgical training scenario. So this is a quick brief about us. Yeah, over to you, Sumitra.
Thank you, Rahul. So we
Any
are done with
questions
the.
I'd like to answer.
So I hope there is no question. If there any question, we can take it at the end. So thank you, Rahul. And we are done with the startup demos. Over to Archana.
Thank you, Sumitra. Thank you, Startup, for the demos. We'll now move on to a panel discussion. The panel discussion is moderated by Mr. Muthu Singaram, CEO of IITM HTIC MedTech Incubator. The panel discussion is on opportunities for startups. So over to you, sir.
Thank you so much. My apologies, and most of you know me, I don't like to run things late, but unfortunately, I've had no choice. It's running 15-20 minutes late. I apologize to my panel. I have with me on my panel Sam Mehta, Vice Chair of Mehta Hospital, and I thank you so much, you being taking time to come, even though your uncle just passed away yesterday. It's just very kind of you to come and see us. Thank you so much. I have Dr. Kalpana, who's Dean of Research down at SRMC. Thank you, man, for coming. Sorry I kept you waiting. My apologies. I have my good friend Padma Chandrasekhar there. Thank you, Padma, for being here. And she can't go on video because she's got bandwidth issues, but she's here with us. I also have Dr. Sandeep somewhere. He was somewhere. Are you there, Sandeep?
Yeah, it's the doc Sam there.
You're the dog stand there. Okay. He's also the chair down at Siddhabadi Clinic, so he's here with us. And I have my good friend Krishnan Balasubramaniam from IIT Madras, entrepreneur, professor, and a researcher of excellence. All three he does extremely well. So I thought it is appropriate to have him here today. So anyone who can go on camera, please do turn on your videos, so at least the audience who are we're streaming this on YouTube, so they can see you on YouTube. So the topic is to look at challenges and opportunities. So what I thought I will do is I'll ask Krishnan first, from the point of view as he's been teaching for quite some time now, and how does he see the students looking at entrepreneurship, startups, and his views and what he could share about student entrepreneurship. I mean, it doesn't have to be in particular healthcare, but in general, how does he see and what are his views?
Yeah, Muthu, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, but I can't see you. I can't see you.
Yeah, I am unable to turn on my video for whatever reason. I don't know why. I think it's locked up in one of the other things. Let me see. Yeah, it is locked up somewhere else.
Okay.
So, okay, hang on a minute. Okay, you should be.
I haven't seen you in over a year, so any picture.
Yeah, I mean, these are not days when you want to see each other. So, hi, good morning to all of you, and good morning, Muthu, good morning, Sam, good morning, Sumitra, and Archana, and Doc. How are you all? Basically, as Muthu said, I represent IIT Madras, and IIT Madras represents probably one of the best academic environment for incubating and for idea generation and idea fostering. There are many opportunities that we provide internally within IIT Madras. So our goal is to push ideas into a possible commercial venture. It may not be purely a profit-based venture. It can be a not-for-profit also. And we push these ideas probably to incubators that are such as the IIT Madras Incubator, where HTIC plays a very significant role, or any other incubator where it makes sense. So we have several possible avenues. Of course, the flagship program within IIT Madras is what's called the Center for Innovation. We support Center for Innovation through funding programs like what's called Nirman. We also have idea generation opportunities for BTechs and MTechs, as well as we also have idea generation programs for MS and PhD students, where the money that we provide can range anywhere from as small as say 20,000, 25,000 rupees to as much as 5 lakh rupees is provided right now. And the 5 lakh is usually for MS PhD students projects, while up to 2 lakhs is provided for others. So essentially, the idea here is if you have an idea and if you have probably even a faculty or somebody who is involved, it may not be a bad idea to try it out and see, make a small, initial prototype or something if possible. The other thing that we provide is what's called a Gopalakrishnan Deshpande Center, where I am the professor in charge of that. We have a variety of programs that we offer that goes again from a starting program called Inspire, where we look at running a 3-day workshop, which is a very personalized workshop. Okay, and I'll talk about that in a minute or two. All the way, then we go one level higher, and we have something called the Incubate, which is our flagship program, which is about 6 to 8 weeks long. And then we have now a couple of new programs that we are also looking at it. There is something called Immerse, there's something called Interact, and there's going to be something called as Ignite. And maybe one more program that we have in this. So there are many programs wherein sort of we want to take you from a very early stage idea all the way to a late stage pre-incubation, or almost put you in the doorstep of an incubator.
Great, thank you so much, Krishnan.
Thank you.
Just ask Kalpana the same question, since she is, also in an academic environment, but she's more on a doctors, medical students, and so on. So how do you see your students looking at taking up entrepreneurship and so on? You're on mute, I think. I'm not able to hear.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes, now perfect.
Yeah, good afternoon. It's a great privilege to join several people on the panel who have been around doing this kind of an application of this paradigm of marrying academics with entrepreneurship with practice, especially in the healthcare sector for many decades now. I would say, although chronologically I wouldn't qualify to be a kid, I'm the newest kid on the block in terms of having the newest incubator, which is just about 3 weeks old. Sort of formalizing this entire idea of innovation, incubation, and product development and taking it to the next stages. So in the capacities that I have interacted with students, I'm also, I've also taken the office of the Dean of Research just about 2 weeks ago. So a lot of new things happening here. But it has been my observation that some of this orientation on what it takes to be sort of engaged in this idea of entrepreneurship, innovation, and also get a realistic sense of when they would need to start while they're enrolled as a student is relatively very, very nascent in medical universities such as ours. We are so bound by council regulations in terms of what the timetable can occupy for medical students, for dental students, for pharmacy students. We are also so constrained by the medical faculty having to devote their time to many of the allied health science students who are not so bound by councils per se in terms of finding the timetable, but they are bound by faculty time who are, these resources for the clinical environment and for clinical training are shared with the medical students. So I think there is a real need to take it up with with the councils, or for that matter, the infrastructure that is being provided to the health science students to be able to easily transition into this mode early on. Most of them are here for 3 years in the health sciences programs, and of course, if they are professional programs, they are here for 4 to 6 years. But they don't get to even see some of this material in our university probably until they are postgraduate students, and those are much shorter programs. And therefore, I would see the biggest need. I just heard Dr. Krishnan Balasubramanian, who has a huge legacy of capacity building on this. Sensitize our communities in healthcare sciences, because I think that's that's very much needed, not just for the students, but for the faculty who are in charge of these students. SRMC is a long-time collaborator of IIT Madras, but you will agree, we are, Sruta has been asking us for such a long time to collaborate on so many initiatives, but yet we are not able to come up to speed on actually making this a reality. Prototypes, validation, even things that are relatively advanced have a hard time taking off. So you can imagine students are much farther down in the rope. But I think we can leapfrog using students as our human capital or our biggest resource to do that. So I think there is a partnerships. At the risk of sounding cliche, I would still say the biggest way would be to sort of tell us, where you've had the biggest successes and what it would take for a healthcare academic environment to fine-tune ourselves. And in my own capacities as Dean of Research, I will do everything possible to facilitate that kind of an interaction. So I hope this has not been very generic, but this is a specific ask, and because this is where we see the biggest challenges.
Great. Thank you, Kalpana. I go to the hospitals now and ask them. I'll start with Sandeep because I want Samir to do both investors' perspective and also the hospital perspective. So I'll go to Sandeep first to talk about what can hospitals do for startups, because even yesterday I was listening to a conversation they were having with the finance minister saying startups are not able to get government contracts and so on. And she was saying up to 200 crores or something, they have said startups don't have to show track record. The government has given instruction to all of them, all the departments to sort of, take a look at those. So what do you think startups, what can hospitals do for startups?
Okay, thanks Muthu for this opportunity. So I think from the, there is often a gap between theory and reality. Okay, so I think where the hospitals can step in is to bridge this gap between theory and reality. So essentially what I'm saying is that sometimes a product or a technology looks very good on theory, but when you want to implement in the real hospital space, you end up having a lot of challenges. You know, something which is dependent on the Wi-Fi, and you'll find that the hospital does not have a Wi-Fi across its entire duration. So therefore, certain things have a practical problem, which I think people will understand better if they come to the place where it's going to be deployed and see how it's being done. The second issue, I think, where the hospitals and the doctors there can make a difference is the domain expertise. I think if the domain expertise in that particular field of technology is approached early, right? And I'm not talking about 1%, but multiple views on the matter. Your technology develops a lot more holistically in the sense that you don't narrow your application to one area, and you have a broader perspective, and you also face the realities and also the pros and cons of the existing one. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. There are people who know that this features exist somewhere else. How can we improve on it? How can we do it better? Things like that. So I think in some ways, if before the technology or the application or whatever is built, if they could take the time to visit and interact with multiple people with domain expertise and actually visit the hospital on field to see the workflow. The big challenge I face when I see a technology is how does it integrate with my existing system, right? So it's an extremely good product, but if it doesn't integrate with my existing system, I will find an extreme difficulty in putting it to use. So I think out of the top of my head, come and visit the hospitals, understand the workflow, understand the constraints of time and other things, maybe even cost with which we work, or the level of technology friendliness our workers have, which you have to bridge in terms of the user friendliness of the application that you need to build. And by understanding all these challenges, I think we can build together a better system and develop a better product.
Great, sir. And Samir, do you want to lead on to that, add on to that, and also take the investor's point of view, please?
Yeah, so thanks, Muthu, and thanks. I think good that HTIC keeps organizing these things, because I think especially for entrepreneurs, this is pretty priceless. So I actually back exactly what Sandeep says. Look, the number of times that we get approached with technology after it's had a gestation period where entrepreneurs are pretty set in their ways, and they think that to a large extent an entrepreneur is a combination of somebody who's relatively stubborn because they have a clear view of the path they want to follow, as well as capacity to be highly adaptive to the environment. And if you catch them early, they're too adaptive. If you catch them late, they're too stubborn, right? And by the way, that's pretty much similar for all humans, because that's a human behavior fundamentally. What we tend to find is, especially folks who come to sell products or technologies or services to hospitals, is they haven't done deep enough work on pricing strategies, and they haven't done deep enough work on understanding what I would call the true customer needs. And I'll use a simple example because I'm a close friend of IIT. Krishnan will actually forgive me for using an IIT professor a little bit in a different sense. So I got a call from one of the more experienced professors at IIT, and he asked me for access to some data around a certain type of health problem in a anonymized fashion. And the problem they were trying to solve, that they had somehow landed on as a group of Indian researchers, happened to be a Western problem, right? The number of people that it would have impacted in India would have been so small that the market size that you're focusing on in your primary market, right? Where you're trying to raise capital, where you're trying to get your early customers, where you're trying to basically get your early steps, is not really meeting the true customer need, which is what a local hospital, whether it's Sandeep's wonderful hospital or our institute, it doesn't solve the true need of that institution. Rather, if you're solving a Western need, and in this particular case, it was the reason this need was there in the West is because a person in the West has to wait a year to meet a super specialist, right? So the amount of time between you doing your primary consultant diagnosis and then actually having your surgical intervention with the super specialist actually takes you 6 months to a year to go through the entire rigmarole process. So they were solving a problem that's real in the West, and perhaps is great if you lived in the US or lived in the UK to actually solve that problem, but had absolutely no value to an Indian context. Because in an Indian context, the true customer problem is how do I get a surgeon who's already busy to see that customer as quickly as possible? Because if that surgeon doesn't see it in our hospital, that same patient will go to another hospital because some other surgeon has quietly sneaked them away to another hospital, or some hospital has quietly sneaked them away. And that's the sad reality of understanding true customer needs. Understand it to your local problem. From an investor point of view, it's simple, right? Show us some traction, show it works in your local market, and show it at scale where the market size that you're addressing is big enough. Preferably come to us in a team context. But the reality is actually most early stage companies, even if you're a one-man army, it's okay. We'll help you as serial entrepreneurs or investors, and whether the Chennai Angels or whether there are other forums in Chennai that kind of like invest in companies. I think those are wonderful platforms to go and get some early footstools. The number of times in Chennai Angels, and you can talk to Padma about this, that people have come forward and perhaps it's one entrepreneur, and that the angel collection helps them expand and stabilize their company. Because to an extent, selling your company to your team is one of the toughest things you'll ever have to do, right? So I think from an investor, just show us some traction and show us that you understood your local market, right? If you want to serve the US, please move to the US and go and do it there. It's not that I'm saying an Indian company should be 100% US, but always be close to your customer. And if you're not solving a problem for your customers here, what the hell are you doing here? That's my 10 cents.
Thank you, Sam. Padma, would you like to add on to what Sam has said? That I think he's been very, what I would say, strong on his view there. So, I mean, all of us.
He's been a little bit emphatic, but broadly, I would go back to all the common issues raised by, I think, Dr. Sandeep and Sam as well, which is one, I think I see a lot of entrepreneurs, I used to see them coming in and are trying, to do something in using IT and saying, I'll solve your healthcare problem. The fact is that you need familiarity with the hospitals that you're working with, the hospital system in general, and let's say a clutch of hospitals you've actually worked with. So you really got to work, and most of them should start in a services model and then build out, unless they have somebody from the hospital or from a, hospital administrator, sitting with them in their team. That's point number one. And Sam, I think, we've seen this all too often. IT guys coming in trying to sell something. I'm just giving that as an example. I think the point, second point is actually, I agree with Sam. I think we should be trying to solve, problems that are Indian. And if you're trying to solve a foreign problem, then that's a services business or potentially a product business. It maybe has to do with HIPAA, or maybe has to do with insurance, analysis, etc. abroad. Our market is differently structured here. But how hospitals can help these companies is the reverse point. I know you haven't asked it in your little brochure, but I do see many hospitals, including Sam's, Kaveri, I can mention quite a few, which are nurturing of, open up access, allow people to come, and, provided there is value, work with them. So I don't know if I, captured in the summary what I think. I mean, this is from my experience looking at healthcare text, both from Chennai Angels as well from 2 other VC funds where I'm an investor and on the IC committee.
Thank you, Padma. I'm going to go back to Krishnan again. How do you encourage, in particular, faculty to encourage, students while they're in the final year or whatever? I mean, you've done reasonably well and you have a large team. So I think someone like you would be able to share in a forum like this, because we have lots of faculties listening on the YouTube channel from our local universities and colleges. So maybe you can share your, your experiences, how you got your students. I mean, you have a large number of students that started doing startups, of course, under your leadership and mentorship. but how did you create that environment?
So I think, Muthu, you hit the toughest point when it comes to academic entrepreneurship. The younger you are, the more pro you are towards taking the risks that are necessary for entrepreneurship. So consequently, whether the later you are in your career, you tend to, wonder why you need to take the risk. So, and that is true for many of faculty members. So whenever I ask a faculty member and I'll talk to them, or if they come and approach me, I ask them, why do you want to do it? You are in a very comfort zone. You're doing everything beautifully. You have a salary, everything. And why do you want to do this? And if the answer is that they really, really want to see their ideas transforming itself into something that has an impact to a society or a manufacturing or whatever be the, or a field, that to me is one of the key reasons why you would like for them to take an chance at an entrepreneurship. Because there are other mechanisms that are available in IIT Madras, for instance. You can always try to sell your technology, license the technology to a well-established company, or you could license it to already existing startups, outside startups. So that is always, there are many options. So the option of a startup is probably the most thrilling, the most satisfying, but also the most involved and risky proposition. The second thing is when would I encourage a student to do that? So there are 3 rules that I have. The first rule I have is, what are you willing to sacrifice as a student? Now, if you're going to say, hey, I want to try out entrepreneurship and then decide, I would say, don't try. It's a waste of your time. It's a waste of everybody's time. They have to be ready to sacrifice. The second thing is, does the idea have some validation? I think there was already a mention by Kalpana and a couple of others that you need to have experiential, validation. Okay, so we all think that somebody needs some technology, but more often than not, that is not, true. Okay, so is the technology validated? Okay. The third thing that I also talk about is there a customer who is kind of willing to commit some amount of possibility? So this actually goes again. This is my rule mantra, because a lot of the technologies I do are all core engineering, core industry. And to some extent, medical industry is even more sophisticated, even more regulated than the industries I work with. But basically, because these industries are all regulated, it's a high risk in terms of technological risk. There's a high risk in terms of manpower risks. There's high risk in terms of economic risks that are involved in any business. And healthcare has even higher degree of enforcement. Particularly if you are in any way involved with an FDA type of regulation, then you certainly have a much longer gestation period, and the whole process is much different. So it is very critical that we make a decision based on a few things. But the most important for me is for the entrepreneurs, what are you willing to sacrifice? So every entrepreneur that I work with in my lab, from my lab, we should be willing to sacrifice a very high-paying job, or a MS or a PhD offer or an MBA offer from a very good school. There are people who have claimed that they've even sacrificed not getting married. They've sacrificed girlfriends too. So, but what are you willing to sacrifice? Because that is your litmus test as to whether you will endure the hardships that are almost mandatory to follow.
Excellent.
So these are my 2
very good, very useful points. Now, Sam, I'm going to put you in the spot, since you have very firm and very, what would I say, positive views. Now, I get a lot of startups come to me, and you might have also had this issue. They come and tell me, I have a great idea. Nobody wants to give me money and nobody wants to test my product. What's your response? You're on mute, my friend. You're on mute.
To whom was that question addressed, Muthu?
I ask Sam and then I'll come to you.
Okay, all right.
Because this is a two-headed snake now. I'm talking about the hospital and the investor. So let him, and then I will give the single head Sandeep and you to respond to his very strong positive views and say.
That's fine. I just wanted to compliment Dr. Krishnan for summarizing exactly what I have said. What's the opportunity cost?
Absolutely.
And persistence, lead time, all of these are issues.
That is why he's a excellent professor, researcher, and an entrepreneur. That's why I brought him in. He's not doing, even though he's not part of medical devices, but he helps me out in some mentoring and so on. So that's great to have him here. Sam, go for it. Sam? Sam, I can't hear. Oh, shit.
Yeah, I think we lost him. It may be because there's a power cut in IIT right now. I don't know whether he's at IIT or hometown. Oh, it is home. But right now there's a power cut. So it may be.
So maybe that was really a good question I wanted to answer from Sam. So he's dropped out. Just give him 2 seconds. Hopefully he'll come back in. I didn't want to.
In the meantime, I'll just pitch in a couple of things, right?
Go ahead.
I think there is a perception, which is probably true, that healthcare sector is not innovation friendly, right? Especially on the small scale startup level, okay? Which is probably true because as a profession, we are risk adverse because the potential of taking a risk is very often a patient life or a complication, right?
Sam is back.
Okay, then I'll let Sam take over. And the next big challenge, just to finish these 2 points, is the hierarchy of decision making in the healthcare sector is quite difficult, even for somebody in the healthcare sector. There's an administration, then there is a department head, and then there are the actual people using it. And very often they are at cross purposes at each other. Okay, so I understand from a point of view how this can be a real challenge. Though it's not something that is directly from your question. So when somebody comes and says, there's nobody helping me on the medical side, I'm not talking about the financial side, these are the places where I will look at.
Great. Sam, back to the question. Everyone is waiting for you to give your response on both those points I asked.
No, I actually also wanted to compliment Krishnan. I'm not sure about the marriage and girlfriend because that may be more important than the startup sometimes, depending on who it is. Make sure that's the good decision. But on a more practical nature, look, the best source of capital for anybody or money is actually the customer. And I think most entrepreneurs forget this partly because they're carried away with reading page 4 of the Economic Times or the VC news. And the VC news is very fickle, guys. I mean, I've invested in VC funds as of Padma and many of the others here. I know Sandeep advises a fund, and a lot of the VC funds are relatively fickle. A customer, however, tends to pay for what they value. Right? And this is a universal truth. Most of the time you can fool a customer some of the time, but not all of the time. Right? So if you actually serve them well, their long-term life cycle value, or LTV as some people call it, is extremely exceptional over the life of your success as an entrepreneur. And I don't just mean in that company, I mean as an entrepreneur. I've had customers who 80 years ago were born in our hospital, that have donated to our medical trust, have paid for sponsored programs at Dr. Mehta's decades later. And in fact, some of them co-invested with us in other startups that we have helped create. And I think that type of relationship you do not get typically as an investor, because an investor-investee relationship is a slightly different type of relationship. There is a clear expectation of returns over the long term. And therefore, when you're not you're not serving the value proposition then and there. It's not quite the same. So to all entrepreneurs out there, I think the best source of money is your customer. So if you can pre-sell your customer in an idea, or at least agree with them a framework for what value they will give to you for the value you give to them, I think there's nothing like that. And the biggest mistake I see with a lot of companies nowadays is that they do not understand the pricing model. You serve or you get funding from a US investor or even an Indian investor. They want to typically make money quickly. And a lot of hospitals aren't actually that thick in terms of margins, right? Average healthcare, you take out the top 10 hospitals in India, which are the corporates, they represent less than 1% of total bed and healthcare services in the country. And yet people tend to price for them, right? And that's great. The problem is that the real solution that you can actually make a difference to in India and in any part of the world is typically the larger market chunk. And in our case, it would be community hospitals like Sitapati and Dr. Mehta's that may be run privately. Also the not-for-profit hospitals like Vijaya, like CMC Vellore, like Arvind. These are the bigger role models to look up to and customers worth serving, if you ask me, rather than corporate heavyweights. Solve their problem, they will keep coming back to you.
Okay, Padma, do you want to add on to that as an investor? I mean, you are very active in angel investing. I mean, you pretty much do it now full time, so you can maybe.
Yeah. Well, two different things I want to point out. I've seen a few successful healthcare companies who have focused on niche areas and not targeted the large chains, as Sam says. Instead, they've gone after, for example, fertility clinics with a very specific. In fact, the one that I'm thinking of right now is from out of IISc, surprisingly, but they've done extremely well. I was very impressed. I don't remember the details right now, but I was quite impressed with what they had done about a year ago, and I know they've scaled up dramatically. They had something of value to offer. So that's just an aside, just to comment on, how do you target your market? A different point to me is when someone comes asking for investment, I first want to know what's his stake in the ground. It's somewhat inequitable, I understand. But I'd like to see you, perhaps, you have a house, your father has a house, turn to friends and family first. Self first, then friends and family, and then a little more friends and family, traction by that time from customer revenue, as Sam says, and then you go to investors outside who will be potentially angels. And then you go on to, maybe subsequent institutional rounds. So this is roughly the cycle in which things work. The only ones who get funded at business plan level are people like the Bansals, who, did very successful, businesses once. And then, it's completely different. Like, for example, CureFit was funded on a whim. But that doesn't happen to the first-time entrepreneur. So it is hard, and I'm not clear here whether we're talking about students alone or we're talking about generally entrepreneurs. But if it's students, then I would advise them, to be really sure this is what they want to do and to consider all the opportunity costs.
Thank you, Padma. I want to ask Kalpana, who's just taken over as Dean of Research. What would your advice be for all your researchers getting into research? Would you be asking them to look at the end result in terms of commercialization, or what would your views be to, in particular, people taking out research?
Yeah, well, thank you. I just want to, also respond quickly to the opportunity cost issue that all the previous speakers alluded. And one of the things, this also pertains to, when is the researcher ready to take on, the output to be a commercially viable one. And often we find that, students in the lure, or so for want of a better word, of entrepreneurship, give up their core domain, skill building at a very inopportune time. So, for want of a better word, again, you have dropout docs. In fact, so to say, doctors who want to become entrepreneurs before they are actually, excellent physicians or excellent surgeons, so to say. So when often when we ask for a commercialization of a product, with a physician or with any researcher for that matter, at least it has been the observation that they are not mature enough to become an entrepreneur. In that sense, they are mature enough. First, they need to be mature enough as a researcher or as a core domain expert. So this is a major challenge. So we want to make sure at our university that this capacities, and by the time we ask them to commercialize something, much time has been lost, and then they are ready to move on, and they are ready to settle for a non-entrepreneurial comfy job, so we cannot accomplish this transition. So we have to find that sweet spot, first year, second year, third year of their PhDs, or early on in the research advisory committee when the faculty are sort of motivating them to already think about these tracks. That's where we are, and we are sort of, now that we have a bioincubator in place, and we will have many more opportunities to actually allow the students to incubate with our own incubator as well as in collaborations with the other incubators, we can actually make this happen much earlier, I think. And the other point I wanted to also look at is how do we enthuse entrepreneurs in domains of research that are not so diagnostic or not so healthcare delivery based? Can we look at some domains such as public health or surveillance or other kinds of research-oriented engagements that actually stand to benefit too from products that can speed up data collection and once validated under a research context can actually be used for surveillance instead of actually disease management. We are so disease management centric in terms of the products. I think I would really like to explore opportunities for where are products that can really help strengthen public health in much more, what we call cost-effective ways, so that surveillance can be strengthened for these products as opposed to disease management and disease.
Muthu, may I comment on this? And Kalpana, are you in India now or in DC?
No, I am here, right here in Chennai.
You're right here in India. Okay, got it. Yeah, because the US system, I mean, NIH's budget is such a large budget that, you could do, hundreds of things with it. So here in this country, of course, the grant budget is not very large, but I do want to pick up the issue that you pointed out about, benefiting other things than just, hospitals or just disease management. I fully agree with you. Clearly, we are not in a position to do things like an mRNA, platform. I remember BioNTech and CureVac when they were being funded 15, 20 years back. And we are not in a position to do that. But certainly things like surveillance, things like, for example, a good algorithm for pooled testing. So at the peak of the epidemic, I remember seeing a really good presentation from an IIT Bombay professor who had a sparse matrix approach to pool testing for, COVID testing. At that time, I think reagent supply was small. Of course, that need is faded away, but there's no reason why that approach cannot be applied to a lot of other things, including, non-infectious diseases. That's one. And two, surveillance, I completely agree with you. I'm appalled at the lack of genomic surveillance that we have going on currently, even though on COVID, for example, even though we have a lot of equipment, and there are smart ways that young students, maybe they're not in the biomedical department, I don't know what department they belong to, people maybe from microbiology, something, can certainly work on, setting up, that kind of thing much faster. And that would certainly benefit, the larger public health system. And there might be an opportunity in it to, pursue a profitable path. Thanks. Sorry for interrupting, Muthu. Just wanted to,
No problem. Absolutely no problem. In the interest of time, I'm going to ask Sam to say his last 2-3 words, 2-3 sentences to people listening out there. So please go for it, Sam. Again, you're on mute. I've said mute more times than I asked questions today.
I apologize.
Go for it. No problem. Go for it.
So guys, I think if you're clear what your idea is, you validated something with a number of customers and you're pretty kicked about this and you don't have a as Krishnan joked, a boyfriend, girlfriend, or a PhD in the way, then I think you finding the right partner in marriage to kind of like deal tough cards back to me. I think that's one of the more fulfilling things that I've actually achieved. I think working with institutions like HTIC and IIT Madras is exceptional. Also SRMC, I have shared time there and been on one of the board of studies. So it's an outstanding institution. And I think go and work, talk to folks like Sandeep who are very approachable, and myself. And there are institutions like the Consortium of Accredited Hospital Organizations of India, CAHO. I think some of you can look at or get through Muthu, you can get connected to us, where the healthcare organizations are helping kind of like connect with a number of the hospitals around the country. And I think institutions like this make your life much easier. So the quicker you do it, the better it is for you as well as a startup, especially in the B2B space. B2C, this probably isn't the right platform, and you're better off going to HTIC directly. But I think working with institutions like this is priceless. I wish we had that when we were younger, but that's why I lost all my hair. It's been the scars of life.
Thank you. Can I get Sandeep to give his views before we end? You are also on mute, Sandeep.
Yeah, so I think a couple of points I would say from a medical perspective: validate, validate, validate. Because as doctors or as administrators, finally, when we see it, is it valid medically? And how unique is it? And how does it compare with the existing technology? How well will it integrate with the existing system and flow? I'm not talking only about the technology, but in terms of the overall medical flow in the existing system, and how user-friendly it is. As a hospital administrator, I know many good ideas just go away because it's very tough to put technology to doctors and nurses, and the cost issue. You must be able to convince us that in some way it's profitable to us. And of course, security, long-term sustenance, and all those are other constraints, I think.
Okay, to Krishnan, your last words before you are also on mute.
Okay, sorry, but the last words is that I think India is a hotbed for technological ideas. And I think we are getting the early ecosystem right. Certainly not to the scale of maybe what is available in the Bay Area or in the Boston neighborhoods, but we are getting there. Particularly Bombay, Chennai, and Delhi are definitely building up to that. But I think where we lack today is the scaling up. What is going on with, many of them are able to get to a certain level, but unable to cross certain hurdles. And a lot of it has got to do with probably vision, B, probably capital availability, and C is an ability to understand the market, global market. And these are areas where I think some of the leaders need to start to focus and see how we can guide fairly successful startups into multinational companies that India can be very proud of. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And we let the ladies have the last word. So can start with Kalpana and can finish with Padma.
Yeah, well, thanks. This has been great. I think there is there's a real need for greater conversations between the academic environments in medical universities and the industry. I think IITs and the likes have pioneered this for a long time, and despite our considerable progress in many other dimensions as a medical university, I think even established medical universities, we don't want it to be an unequitable partnership, right? Where the entire burden of sort of carrying the product to commercialization falls with our engineering partner, including some, elite ones that would come from IITs. I think we want to be equipped wherein, much of that thought process is internalized here within a medical science university, and you will agree that that kind of a mindset is just not there for us. And therefore, we really need to sort of think creatively on how to build those capacities so that it really becomes much easier to forge these partnerships if the burden is unduly placed on. It's not as though we just want to be looking at the device or the diagnostic side of things from a patient perspective, but sort of the rest of the market enablers out of the equation. If we don't understand all of that early on in our academic careers, we are going to be not very efficient partners. So I think the healthcare universities need to do better in equipping the healthcare professionals, be entrepreneurs early on.
Okay, thank you, Kalpana. Padma, my friend, your last.
So yeah, point one, I'm not sure that everybody and his uncle in the world need to be entrepreneurs. I'm sorry, if you're hearing a dog barking, it's mine. I apologize. Okay, not everybody needs to be an entrepreneur first. Point number two, I think creating an academic industrial complex is a long endeavor and requires watering and support from both sides. I currently do not see, for example, the corporates engaging as they should, though I think there are one or two cases like GE Medical, for example, does quite a bit of work, and that's thanks to HTIC. But it is, it takes watering from both sides. And as far as the, let's say people who genuinely want to be entrepreneurs, who are probably likely to go on to be entrepreneurs, they may come from outside, they may come from inside the academic environment, in which case, all of Professor Krishnan's, restrictions apply. But I think there we're in our infancy, and I'm seeing excellent work being done by by many incubators, not just IIT HTIC, which I've known at close hand. I'm also seeing IISc, and I'm seeing dozens of other incubators doing this very well. So I think there's a good place for incubators as well in this whole scheme of things. And I think you've done a good job, running that, Muthu.
Thank you, Padma. Now, there were some questions in the chat box. I did not take them because they require a lot more explanation and it's different. Somebody asked about how grants work and how they need to leave. I have not ignored it. If you connect with us or if you're on one of my programs, grants are taken care of. We also take the other question asked about legal aspects. We have lawyers. We have the best law firms coming and teaching in our programs and connect with you. So those questions will be addressed there, because the panel I have here today are mostly entrepreneurs, investors, and doctors. So their expertise is not in this area. So I will have those covered. It's not that I've ignored. I have actually responded to you on the chat box as usual. Okay, my summary, as most of you know me, I never run anything late, but unfortunately it happens to all of us. I am 15 minutes behind schedule or even more, half an hour. What a disaster. But anyway, not to worry. It's all for a good cause. I want to
a woman's privilege to have one last word, Muthu, and my friendship with you. Yes. So I was excited looking at use of blockchain and advances in point of care technology, but we really didn't get to discussing any of those. So maybe there'll be a future session in which we can discuss that.
Yes. We'll do that session during our program, not on the global bio, but we will do it during our normal interaction.
All right. I'll be interested in that because I have a lot to discuss about that. Yeah.
Absolutely, we'll do that. I think maybe we should have regular quarterly or whatever, because we do this sometimes very often, sometimes we do it randomly. I think we should have some kind of a, whatever you call it, they get together and speak for some time. We used to do that before the COVID, 3 months or whatever, we get everyone together. So we'll do that.
Well, now Zoom is, eminently comfortable. You can do it on Zoom, and please send us all the link of the YouTube channel. If there are other videos, I'd like to go and look at those.
Absolutely.
Thanks very much.
Absolutely, we'll do that. I want to thank Krishnan for turning up here today. Thank you so much, Krishnan. As always, you're a very good
Thank you, my pleasure.
You're always a good supporter to me. So is Sandeep. You are also a great supporter. Kalpana, my new supporter. And Padma, as always, I keep disturbing you the last minute. And of course, Sam has already gone on. So I thank all of you for your input. And my takeaway today is India is happening and it is the right place to be. And we are all going to make it happen together. So thank you so much, panel. I hand over this back to Archana to conclude the session. Archana, to you. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me to moderate such a fantastic panel. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Nice.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye all. Good meeting you.
Bye. Yeah.
Archana is going to do a wrap up. Just give her 2 minutes.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. On behalf of IIT Madras HTIC MedTech Incubator, I would like to thank each and everyone who has made efforts and support in bringing this roadshow together. I would like to thank our faculty in charge, Dr. Mohan Shankar Sivaprakasham, for always being a pillar of support. Very hearty thanks to our CEO, Mr. Muthu Singaram, for being a driving force in curating this roadshow and for successfully running it virtually. I wish to express my gratitude to Dr. Shruti Shukla, a research scientist at BioIndia, for sparing her time with us this morning and for taking us through briefing on Global BioIndia and BioIndia. I must mention a deep sense of appreciation for Dominic Blackley, Innovation and Entrepreneurship Strategist from UNB Canada, for taking us through the wonderful session on opportunity for startups in India, and Marianne Picard, M2D2 Director of Operations from University of Massachusetts, USA, for the opportunities for startups in USA. I would also like to thank our panel members for today, Dr. Krishnan Bala Subramanian, Dean IC and SR at IIT Madras, Ms. Padma Chandrasekharan, Angel Investor and Management Advisor, Mr. Sam Samir Mehta, Vice Chairman Director at Dr. Mehta's Hospital, Dr. Sandeep Murli, Director, Sitapati Clinic and Hospital Private Limited, Professor Kalpana Balakrishnan, Dean Research and Director at Sri Ramachandra Institute for Higher Education Research, for kindly accepting our invitation and for sharing their valuable insights and experience with us. I would also like to congratulate all the 6 startups, Debian Healthcare, Teslon Technologies, Kernew MedTech Innovation Private Limited, Mozilla Health Solution Private Limited, AI Prosthetics, and Basak Simulation Private Limited for making great demonstrations and also showing support by being part of this roadshow. I also extend my sincere thanks to my colleagues, Pratishta Jain, Sumitra, Harshini, and Gaurav for their enormous effort and coordination in bringing up this virtual event together. Once again, I thank each and everybody. Have a great day ahead. Thank you all.
Bye now.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, Shruti.